La 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 la. La la la. Yeah, I think that did it. Hi, hi. Fixed. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Welcome, welcome. How you doing, guys? La 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 la. Welcome, welcome. Good evening, Aris. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let me make sure that it works when I'm top right. It works. Okay, good. I can remove the little text. Although, hey, you're gonna give me that. The text was a good idea to address the situation. Yeah, no, it's nothing. It's just I think it's because I changed the cable, so we don't have to worry even if I need to move the mic. But by disconnecting it and reconnecting it, I guess I had to tell the software on OBS which mic, what they were supposed to use. But yeah, we're good. We're good. Happens all the time. Yeah, appreciate. Thank you for that. Thank you for being open-minded. I want to thank Cassius for becoming a member. And by the way, the fact that the other day I said if we had hit 700, thank you, Cassius. If we had hit 700 channel members for the next stream, I would have put my hair into a plait/braid. Here we are. So we'll have to think of the new thing is going to happen once we hit 800. And of course, we've got Vega here. In honor of Vega, I suppose. I could put the mask on later on. Why not? Oh, I interrupted myself, says Roberto, because you were watching the VOD. Sorry about that. Full plate, man. Yeah, I mean 800 members and then I do a stream in plate. That could be kind of cool, although that's a long stream. Maybe we'll have to organize maybe like an element of armor per 100 members or something like that, because the entire stream of like 3 or 4 hours in full plate could be a little intense. But I'd be more than happy to put on breastplate and backplate for 800 members and keep it on the entire stream. Why not? Yeah, I'm up for it. I can get progressively more armored. I can get progressively more armored per each milestone of 100 members. Yeah, I mean that could be funny if the situation goes well. Yeah, 2,000 sub, and Metatron does his hair like Princess Leia or Chun Li. Well, maybe not, but that could be funny. Like I end up wearing the helmet, like you can't even see me anymore. Oh, that would be fun. Anyways, if we hit 800 members next stream, I'm putting on breastplate and backplate. That's what I'm doing. How about that? How you guys doing? Good to see you. So by the way, even though I put that title to the stream, that's just one of the things that we're going to review today. We have a lot of things prepared, and yeah, we'll check quite a few some interesting stuff. So I'm glad to have you here, noble ones. Thank you very much for clicking. It's glad to have you here. No, I'm not gonna do layer buns. I'm not gonna do layer buns. Absolutely not. Oh, you should take some ibuprofen, St. Nicholas, or whatever painkiller works for you. Or maybe you might avoid screens. Maybe that's what it is. You should review Manuel Bravo Visualize Ancient Rome video. I'll definitely add it to the tabs. Let me see if I can add it to the tabs. So, Manuel Brado. I see an understand Rome. I don't know if that's what. Oh, virtual Rome. Yeah, we're checking this one out 100%. So I think you're talking about this, right? What ancient Rome looked like from 4 years ago. Let me see if he's got anything new. I didn't know this creator at all, so thank you very much for letting me know about this channel. Sistine Chapel. Yeah, I don't see anything new on Rome, so it must be like an older one. Ancient Rome, Renaissance, so he does members only. Cool. Looking good, yeah. I've actually seen these assets before, so maybe I've seen them on Google. Yeah, look at the golden ratio right there. Interesting. So he does double language, basically. That's what he's doing, yeah. I don't know how that would work. Well, it's working fantastic for him, so I guess absolutely do it. Looks like it's working. Egyptian gardens, that could be nice. I actually have a video on this. It's already prepared. Before you tell me, you copied him. No, actually, because people say that. No, actually, I have a video prepared on this very topic, and I will post it probably the next couple of days. Might be tomorrow. Hey, Higashi Martial Arts, good to see you here. I'm just gonna show you proof of that, so that I will have video proof. But we're still gonna check that because it looks pretty nice, anyways. Just to show you. One of the videos that I'm going to post is this one. This is how the classical Mediterranean world actually looked like, and it's breathtaking. And then I put like statue in color, statue white, and the columns, the other painted stuff. So that not necessarily the definitive thumbnail, by the way, but yeah. So yeah, the videos that are unlisted are the next 5 videos are already prepared, as you can see. So that's how I do the everyday posting. I prepare things. And then I also have 4 videos prepared on the 3rd channel and 2 videos prepared on the 2nd. They're already uploaded. And so that's one of the things that I do to maintain consistency with the posting, with the daily uploads. And yeah, so a little behind the scenes for you right there. So yeah. So let me see who is here. Oh, Dequiten is here. Look at that. Hey, man. So good to have you here. Thank you so much for popping by. Where are you? I just saw you. There you go. Metatron or your real duel can find out the challenger. Ooh, I would love that. You can decide if you want Roman or Greek. Roman, of course. It would be Roman for me, 100%. I mean, that's it's just how it is. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here, Dequiten. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome content, as always. You know, I always love to let people know about your channel because you do fantastic work. There he is. Let me see, what have you been doing apart from, yeah, Night versus Summer is your last production. Talking about that, Dequitem, since I see that you have this helmet here, I actually have a similar helmet just arrived, and it's this one, recently arrived. This one here, and it's kind of similar to the one you wear. I thought it was pretty cool. So it's a nice helmet. And then it's got the padding on inside. It's all like, it's a close fit, but I guess that's how it's supposed to be. Slightly claustrophobic, but yeah, the head fits, so I guess that's good. So there we go. And that's the situation. Yeah, cool helmet. Yeah, it's a good helmet, isn't it? It's a pretty nice helmet. Absolutely. Greetings back. Good to have you here, man. So we were looking at yeah, got quite a few things today. Gonna have a good time, hopefully. Hey, Sir Dude Man. Hey, Raf, how are you? Very well. Thank you for stopping by. Let me see the stream health. Let's have a look how we're doing in terms of connection. Yeah, looking fine. Yeah, looking fine. Excellent connection. Hey, wow. Wow, today I'm getting some excellent connection, noble ones. Were you expecting that? Nice braid. Thank you. It's because I hit 700 members on the channel. In fact, we are at 715. Now we are exactly 45 members to 800. No, what am I saying? With great math, Raf. I really love that. I don't know why my mind got confused there. No, we're 85 members. 85 members. But yeah, so that's where we are, and it's gonna be great. So yeah, as I was saying, I said the other night, I said, hey guys, if I don't know, if I didn't know what to say, so I just said, if we hit 700, I'll braid my hair and I'll wear Vegas mask on the next stream, and here we are. So now we decided if we hit 800 members, I'm gonna wear for the next stream. I'll do the whole stream wearing the breastplate and backplate. I'll do that. It's gonna get hot, so I'm gonna have to have, well, maybe not too much actually, just with those 2 elements, not too bad. Yeah. Have you watched Adorea's last video? They made a KCD tribute. I'll have to check it out. No, I haven't watched it. Would that be comfortable on the chair? Yeah, sure. I mean, just breastplate and backplate, absolutely not a problem. It's fine. Yeah. Kenzie Leia's buns. Yeah, I mean, she would look great. Also because Leia has the buns, but she also has the braids around it, so I think it will look good. It will look good for sure. Thank you very much. I'm not a buddy guy. I cast my vote on the Romans. Absolutely, yeah. Let's go. Me too, by the way. But yeah, today, among other things, we've got a few things to watch. And then I noticed that this question was asked by the channel, this one, History Hit, and we've got these two gentlemen. It's a huge 1 hour video. I'm just gonna watch a little bit, and then I'll of course encourage people to go and watch the rest. We'll just watch a little bit, but I would like to hear your opinions on this, so it's one of the things that we're gonna check out today. Then I found this video that I thought was interesting, and it's let me see this. So it's 6 myths about the Middle Ages that everyone believes, from by Stephanie Honchel Smith. I don't know who Stephanie. Let me see if they tell us. Lesson by Stephanie. It's a lesson, so whatever. We'll see who this Stephanie Honchel Smith is. Probably some kind of professor, I guess. So we'll have to see. I'll Google her, so we'll find out. It's only 4 minutes long, but the reason why I'm not starting with this is because it's TED, and they copy claim everything, and then they double down. So we'll test it. It might block the stream. So we'll test it a little later on the stream, just in case. You know, just gotta be a little careful with these things. Hey Melissa, so good to have you here. First time catching Metatron live. So I'm live streaming Monday to Friday, 5 Central Daylight Time. So you can catch me in one of those. But it's good to have you here. Thank you. Thank you. You were hoping, yeah, Honor is great. Yeah, Honor. Remember her. She did a fantastic job. I think she mostly covers. What does she cover mostly? Classical antiquity, maybe. I don't know if she does medieval, the medieval period. Maybe. I mean, she's a historian. She does. She is called ancient historian. So imagine she's a classicist. Golden Axe, yeah. For me, it's Axe Battler. Although then again, no. Actually, my favorite is Styrus Flare. I've got statues for all three, by the way. Might show you later during the stream. I've got the action figures for all three. How you guys doing on Twitch, by the way? Good to see you. Yeah, Titan Bro. I mean, they did have long spears, although long the Greeks. But yeah, Macedonians are the ones with the actual super long pikes, as someone else, Tassel is explaining here. But even the spears of the Greeks were pretty long, like 2 meters. And Adimetrodori, that's how I remember it, reading it in Greek. So yeah, a 2 meters spear, roughly. But yeah, no, the Macedonians said, like, that's why they're often referred to as pikes. Yeah, a bit Viking today, I guess, Shinigami. Midnight for me here in the UK, but always watch it the next morning during my gym sessions. I appreciate that, Protein. Protein Soldier, wow. Protein Soldier. The Romans also had spears. It kind of depends on what period, by the way. Or you know how the Roman corps called the hastati. Well, hasta is the Roman spear. Thing is, though, that if you look at the hastati during the late Republic to Middle Republic, they are armed with sword and shield. So you're like, why are they called hastati? Well, they're called hastati because they used to have in early Republic, possibly even in the Regnum, they did have spears. It's just that they switched to sword and shield. I think the reason is because the Romans had such massive shields that they could really favor very close combat. And when you're in very close combat, then and also it's the geography that affects what type of corps you prefer, whether it's cavalry, whether it's spearmen, whether it's swordsmen. But yeah, no, the Roman military really is the one military that used the sword as the main weapon. But once again, there are examples in the sources, like for instance, when we talk about the Battle of Alesia, where we are told that the Romans are using, not only they're using spears, they're using the pilum, the pila, as hand-to-hand spears. So sometimes that happens, and other times they actually had spears too. It's just that for some reasons they switched to sword and shield, and it just worked for them. So is the Gladius the greatest sword ever? No, I wouldn't say so, Dan, but it definitely was a fantastic sword for the period. So in classical antiquity, I would say it was the best sword. Even the Carthaginians used it. They are the ones that used it first, before the Romans. So both the strongest, most powerful military in the world during the huge clash of titans, they were both using gladi, at least towards the end of the conflict, when the Romans actually adopted it too after they conquered Spain. So, yeah, I did do the braid, Tico. I promise. When I make a promise, I do it. That's why I'm saying we are at 715 subscribers now. If we hit 800, not subscribers, members. If we hit 800 tomorrow, I'm going to wear breastplate during the stream. I want to do that. Yeah, why not? Why not? Do you count Twitch subs as members? Sure. I mean, they're separate, but absolutely, yeah. If we have an explosion of Twitch subs, I'll still do it. Thank you. You like the braid? Thank you, Nova. Appreciate that. Thank you. It doesn't even fit the shot. That's the funny part. It doesn't fit the shot because it keeps going. It keeps going, and it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Brigantes, yes. But anyways, how are you guys doing today? Before we jump into checking out what we've got. I appreciate that, Kristen. Thank you very much. Yeah. Good morning, Kwang Bai. Sounds like a Korean name. Tired? Yeah, I mean, today I'm a little sleepy too, but I had to wake up a little earlier. Again, I hate it, but I keep having to wake up early because we have things to do. And we want to get them done before, before the stream, of course. And so we have to kind of go out a little earlier. And because, yeah, we had to go and pick up the car and then get the brakes checked and whatever they do fixed. So there was that. You caught a trout, JD. Went fishing. True, Chips, but then again, you get a lot more gaming streams because Twitch I do dedicated nighttime gaming streams, so there is that. They're kind of slightly different, I guess, Twitch and YouTube. Thank you, Kwambai. I appreciate that. Thank you, Hannah Nior. I just read your comment. I appreciate you liked the video, the religious one. Kayaking and fishing, man, that sounds fun. I need to start like doing a little more physical exercise. I do a little bit, but I think I need to do more because as a creator, my life is a little sedentary, I suppose. So I have to make sure I should start going to the gym again. I remember when I used to do that. So it'd be nice to do it. Hey, Ray Gonzalez, thank you so much for supporting the stream and for gifting a member. I'm glad my sacrifice paid off. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, because you made it happen. You made it happen. You made us hit 700 members on YouTube, and then then I promised I would do the braid and the mask. Mask is here. I'll put it on later. So yeah. Have you heard A Song of Carthage by Faria Faraj? It's even got Latin lyrics. That could be nice to check out while I'm offline. It's crazy how easily you get copy claim these days, particularly with music, but in general. I feel like there's something has happened. I think they must have deployed AI bots, like bots that have always been bots when it comes to copyright stuff. But I think it's powered by AI now. That's my guess. Because the situation from the inside is crazy. Like you have to be a lot more careful. A lot of things get copy claimed more easily. That's what I'm noticing. Adam Savage recently uploaded a video where he learned about historical armor. Oh, cool. So is he, who's Adam Savage, by the way? Does he usually do weapons and armor, or is it one of those cases where he's like someone who doesn't, and like he's impressed about, oh yeah, no, I know this guy. I know the face. Like I recognize the face. So he's not into Mythbusters. Yeah, no, I'll check him out for sure. Absolutely. Wow, oh my gosh, that's a, yeah, I wish I could touch a real sword. Man. Adam Savage learns how real chainmail is restored. I hate the word chainmail, but I understand for the algorithm. I guess it's a lot more common than just writing mail. So I can see that. Oh, that's a Montefortino helmet right there that they have on that thumbnail. Look on the right bottom. Beautiful specimen, in fact. Because it's symmetrical. You can tell that this was actually on the expensive range, because these Montefortino helmet, they start to mass produce them after a while in Rome, but you can tell where like the thing in the middle is, it's off center, and you can tell like they were making them quickly for like, because it was, you know, after Marian reforms and whatnot. But before that, you could, I would just by looking at it, I would say that's before the Marian reforms, and it was made for someone who was a landowner and had money, because it looks perfectly symmetrical and very well made. Not to mention the gorgeous patina, green patina on the bronze. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's got quite a lot of stuff on armor. Appreciate that. I never, so I saw his face online, but I never watched anything from him. Good channel. Do you guys recommend the channel in general? Because I'll definitely react to this one about armor, 100%. To see what we've got. He films in 4K as well. Good stuff. It's a good channel. Yeah, all right. I'll definitely do that then. Yeah, the copyright has become relative good. It's become different. Like even copyright-free music gets copyright claimed. And then I have to go there and either dispute it and wait, or sometimes I just remove it. I'm like, oh, whatever. Like I kind of liked the music in that moment, but I don't want to deal with it. Just, you know, sometimes that's what I've been doing. Yeah. And believe it or not, and I don't know how, but you know that I am with an MCN, right? If you remember the whole situation, I've got an MCN, just like a lot of other multi-channel networks, for those who don't know. But then again, as you know, we've been making multiple channels. Like I have the third channel, the second channel. I've got the fourth channel, which is my Metatron clips. So I've got a lot of channels. And of course, I had to grow those, reach monetization again, and then enter them inside the MCN, the network. This is so strange. When you are with an MCN, your copyright music, like copyright-free music, royalty-free music, doesn't get copy claimed anymore. But when you're outside and you're on your own, every single song I put, even if I own, I literally buy it because I pay a service. So it's not just that it's royalty-free. I have licenses. They still get copy claimed, every single one of them. And then every time I have to go there manually. So strangely enough, there must be something within the algorithm that says if the channel is in an MCN, then the music doesn't, the copy claim is a little more relaxed. But recently, even my main channel has received a couple of copyright claims that shouldn't have happened. So strange. No, I know, Swai. It's just that in my position, there is no way for me to avoid being with an MCN. Like, I have no choice. I have to be with one. I've already explained why a few times, but in general, if you open a channel in a country and then you leave that country and move to another, the only way you get paid is through an MCN. There is no way around it. Well, the other way around it is to remove monetization and create an entire new Google AdSense, and no one wants to deal with that. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. He's a cool dude, says Chips. Nice. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I would, Sir Dudeman, I wouldn't put links because you might be get. First, I don't click them. Like I know you, I've seen you a million times. It's just that it's an absolute policy on my channel. I will never click links, even if it's from my father. It's just a policy. It's for self-preservation. And then you might get flagged by the system. So I would recommend you, if you have a video you want me to watch, just give me the name. It's just easier that way. Like I've lost sponsorships over things such as I'm not downloading links, I'm not clicking anything. Like that's just how it is. Yeah, it's the only way to protect yourself. Cufflinks are okay, J. Murray, I suppose. Man, I haven't worn cufflinks in a long time. When I was living in England, I used to wear my cufflinks. I remember I had a little Italian flag cufflink pair. They were pretty nice. Medieval Skirmish KCD2 live action by Adorea. Okay, thank you. I'll definitely add it to the list. I mean, I'm going to open a tab for it, but I don't know if I'm going to manage to do it tonight because I've got quite a few. In fact, we're going to start checking out a few videos soon. And I'd like you to know that, by the way, because of course someone today in the comments got offended because I posted my reaction video to Kermit the Frog with Jordan Peterson, which was absolutely hilarious. That was, oh my gosh, that was great. However, someone got offended. Not that I care, I'm just saying it because it's funny, but I'm also saying it because I want to tell you something about it. So I posted this video today, 3 hours ago, and it was great, but a couple of people got offended. They said, so are you a React channel now? Is this what's going on? That kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, let me have fun. This is fun. I loved it. I loved it. It was so funny. It was hilarious. I don't know why people have to do the whatever. Anyways, to respond, no, I've been making and producing really good videos that it's original content, but they take time to be produced. So in the meantime, you know, I like accumulating a few React videos so that I can post those in between the original content that takes time so that I can keep the channel alive and combat and fight to stay relevant with the current algorithm. So that's really as simple as it is. It's not deeper than that. So like this one is not, for instance, this was original content. This was a sort of reaction, but then again, it's 35 minutes and the original video, which was a section from Joe Rogan, was 5 minutes. So of those 35 minutes, 30 are mine. Does it really count as React? I don't know, man. I mean, it depends, I suppose. And but anyways, as I was saying, yeah, some of these are absolutely, some of these are not. Like this is not. It's just one of those situations, I suppose. But yeah, no, the regular original content is in the making, but some of these take time because I need to double check the sources and do and that and this and that and then the editing. And so in the meantime, I thought, hey, I'm just going to post this one because it's great and it's funny. And at the end of the day, if it's funny, I mean, if I enjoy it, it's fine. And I know you guys liked it anyways. But anyways, that's why today I've got a few things that I wanted to react to, because this way we are having a good time. These are interesting topics. We can talk with chat. And at the same time, it counts as filming React videos that I can then post. And this allows me to finish the original videos and boom, I'm going to schedule them and bam, 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 post. I've got a Bible video also coming up soon. So yeah, that's how it is, just to let you know. So no, I haven't turned into a React channel. I just do some Reacts because they allow me to produce stuff in the background in the meantime. And some people enjoy them, by the way. It's not like everyone hates them. There are people that really like them. Thank you, Frank Crane. Love your video on the Joe Rogan hieroglyphs. Thank you. I loved watching Ancient Aliens and still find it interesting, but I enjoy seeing the helicopter explained. Yeah, I thought that was a good video. Again, as I say, 30 minutes of explanation and hieroglyphs and 5 minutes of watching someone else. In fact, I didn't even get copy claimed. Usually Joe Rogan Experience stuff gets copy claimed. That one I used so little that it didn't get even the copy claim thing. It was funny. But yeah, no, I appreciate that you liked it. Thank you very much. Kermitacus Caesar. Yeah, sure. We need to have a 1 Metatron versus 20 Kermit the Frogs. That's what we need. That's what we need. But yeah, so it's here as one of the things to check out. Ooh, I see that it looks... Yeah, look at that. They even look the part with the shield that they chose. This is going to be good. It's a 2 minutes one, so maybe we could actually start with this one because it's so short that it's... yeah, let's have a look at this one. I'm actually curious. I'm actually very curious about it. I'm just gonna say Kingdom Come Deliverance with the monster voice though, just because.
Welcome to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You muppet.
I feel so much better now. Microphone might have had the edge, but here we are. All right, so let me put chat on the side so I can read it while we check this out. Let me get my headphones and let's see. I mean, 2 minutes. Yeah, we can start with this. Plus, I love Adorea. Such a good channel. If you haven't checked them out and you like medieval combat, absolutely you should subscribe. Absolutely. Just like you should subscribe to Dequitem. These guys are great. All right, let's go. What have we got? I hope the music doesn't get copy claimed. Man, look at that shot. I'll comment more later. First time I'm gonna let it play. Then we get back. Wow. Uh-oh. Oh, that guy's looking for a fight. Oh, actually, the guy from Kingdom Come Deliverance, from the team. I wasn't expecting that.
Konec zábavy, parchanti! Seberte je!
Oh, wow, it's an actual... It's an actual brawl, like a skirmish. Actually, look at the action, bro. Look at the action. Hold the guards. That was a nice cut. We'll discuss that one in a minute. Oh my gosh. Oh no, he's my favorite, the guy on the right. Come on. Don't go down. Nice one. You're not gonna survive that. Yeah, that's it. Brigandine guy, let's go. Oh no. Oh no, guys. Brigandine guy's down. Brigandine guy's down. Damn it. Whoa. Yeah. Oh, that was good. Good editing. That was good. Man, that was good. Adorea is like top notch. Top notch. All right, let's analyze it a little bit, shall we? This was pretty good. Yeah, okay, so let me have a look. First of all, let's have a look at the shot. I love the shot. If it were me, I would have enhanced the greens on screen, but I understand it's a choice. It's just that I like things to be very colorful, and because the game tends to be very colorful, I would have done that in post-processing, but that's just me. Regardless, all right, so this guy wants to buy some weapons. This is good. Nice single-edged blade, yeah, look at that. All right, so let's see. This guy's got a full set of leg harness. He's got a brigandine. So the only thing about his brigandine, quality-wise, is that it's a little too tubular, like a little too cylindric. It should be like this. It should bend towards the waist. So quality-wise, not the best, I have to say. The barbute is kind of cool though. I like the barbute. The shield looks nice, even the thickness slash thinness. So of course they work with what they have. I'm not trying to say anything, but I'll show you what I mean. I'll show you because the brigandine I have is actually, yeah, that guy was Daniel Vavra. I can never pronounce it. But yeah, no, as I was saying, usually when you see brigandine in iconography, they always have the waist, the thin waist. It really helps. The type of barbute he has is the one I like the least. I'm not trying to, again, he still is my favorite, but I'm saying it's historical, the one that is super open like this. Then you have the one that looks like a Y, the opening, and then you have the one that looks like a T. All of these can be found at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And yeah, this is the one I like the least, to be honest. Okay. Alright, so we got sword and shield, nice stances, as always, these guys are pros. This guy is a longsword. What does he have? Yeah, they are. So this guy has a spear. You know, my money would be on this group, to be honest. They've got the range. Not great helmets, but these two guys have got kettle hats. How about the helmets on the other group? One second. Yeah, I mean the same. It's like 2 have helmets and the rest don't. So number of helmets is the same. Even without knowing, my money would have been on these guys. Yeah. Oh no, medieval people took care of their clothes, to be honest. The idea that they would be just going around with dirty clothes is it's a myth. So unless you were like a beggar on the streets, then sure. All right, so I think they spoke Czech. The only thing I know is Zmrzlina. Very good. Was that a glaive or was it a spear? Maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, no, the pole arms definitely give them advantage. This is not like, luckily this is not too close of an area, because if it was, then the pole arms actually would be a disadvantage. But like in a corridor, for instance. But in a place like this, it's pretty good. Nice. This guy has a hammer. Warhammer is nice, yeah. I'm not sure about the crossing of the arms that he just used, but then again, in the panic of combat, I guess. I love the technique that he used, though. Let's have a look at it. Let's see if we can do a slow-mo. Right? Man, this is a little annoying to listen to, though. Alright, so I want to see the technique, but I think it's the one like this that he used. There we go. Yeah, look. Palm, and then redirecting the blade, and that's a hit to the temple. You won't survive that. You won't survive that. So what he's using, look, basically, if this was real, I'm not sure about the edge alignment necessarily, but in general, I would imagine him cutting through the ear, through the back of the neck here, possibly through the face, half the skull. Yeah, that was a glaive. So half the skull, this is lethal. This is lethal. And what's really cool is that he's using this position with the thumb putting pressure on the guard to pivot. And he executed it really well. So look. So this is when he meets the opponent's spear, right? Thumb, like this. And then he is turning it around, his thumb at the bottom. And he was not expecting it, of course. Pum. Out. And you're out. I mean, you could survive it if the blade is not too sharp, for instance. Maybe it's been used and let's say the edge alignment wasn't perfect. Maybe, but it would still be a nasty cut, like a really nasty cut. But the reality is, with how fast he was moving, this would be lethal. You're not going to survive that. But it's but a flesh wound. 'Tis but a flesh wound. Very well executed. Sorry, we need some audio here. So movement's a little wide on this guy. They looked a little choreographed, and usually they're really good at not making it look choreographed. So the way this guy did it was a little too choreographed, but it doesn't matter because I actually support. I was rooting for the other one, so it's fine. Yeah, this is a nice one. Oh gosh, that was great. That was great. And also, I would like to underline, I'm being a little critical and analytical here, but it's not like I could do any better, just so you know. Anyways, look at the way the shield is connected, the bracing of the shield, and that's historical. In fact, it's kind of reminiscent of the way the shield is held This is found in iconography, by the way, with the vertical, perpendicular, and when you rest your arm, the shield goes upside down. It's the same thing that you find in Dark Souls. In literally almost every Dark Souls, this is the default way the character uses the shield, and it's found in iconography. It absolutely is. See? So then as he brings it back, he's basically holding it like this, and the triangle will look like this. So then when the arm is rested, and I can prove it to you, as I say, it is found in iconography. There we go, Metatron adding so much context that I make 2 minutes into whatever the heck. Metatron, Dark Souls. So just want to show you what I'm talking about. Yes.
If you like.
All right, if you like. Yeah. All right, making fun of me. Myself. Yeah, oh, that's me with short hair, by the way. Goodness gracious, that's a long time ago. Anyways, let me see if I can find the images that I was talking about. One moment. Yeah, so this was a collaboration video that I did a long time ago with, gosh, what's his name? Collaboration with Roland Dimicator. And so, yeah, we were talking, see, that's him. So we did a collaboration together here talking about the shield in the game. And I was just showing that when you play the game, you'll notice that, yeah, that's how you hold the shield. That's how you hold the shield, right? Now, given, it's not great, but you can see that this is where the arm would have rested. So actually, the way it's represented in the game is pretty good. It's just that the way he's holding it is not. The arm should make contact and it should be connected. But that's fine. It's not a big deal. It's fantasy. But I do want to show you that the way he's holding it is basically the same situation that we're seeing in the... Where is it? In this situation. Oh, I did not mean to do that. I did not mean to do that. There we go. There he is, right? So it's really the same way that we see. And as I say, let me see if I show on this video the actual iconography. That's me with short hair. Let me see if I show the actual iconography or not. This is the Mikator show. Yeah, there we go. That's a piece of iconography that shows exactly what we are talking about. Look at that. Yeah, Roland is really good. Absolutely. So see, that's found in iconography. It's not the only way, and in this case, he's actually holding two extremities, so it's still different, but the orientation is the same. It's not the most common. The most common is like this, and okay, so how you would imagine it, or oblique, diagonal. These are the most common ones, but this is also one of the ways. And let me see if I have more. Yeah, there we go. Clearly, you can imagine that that's what's happening in... let me see if we can see it. There is, yeah, there we go. In this situation, it has pros and cons, of course. It has pros and cons, this way of holding the shield. And so, yeah. And here we see again another one of those scenarios where the shield is held in this way, which is kind of like Dark Souls. So I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I look very different. Well, I wasn't a boy. I just had short hair. This is... how long ago? 2019. That's me in 2019. But before this, I had long hair again. So I just cut my hair. But strangely enough, it must be a curse. Because even when I cut it, it grows back. Don't know what to tell you about that. But that's where we're at. Cool. So yeah, that's cool. Okay. He's half swording. Nice. This is probably one of my favorite parts, although I hate that he goes down. Would that cut to the face have killed him? In my opinion, no. It would have smacked the helmet. I think he should still be alive. Maybe a little cut on the nose and the mouth here. Nothing that, just a scar of battle, I guess. I don't think he would die. But then again, maybe he's not dead. He's just out of combat because he got cut and he doesn't want to continue. That's absolutely possible for a real duel like that. Yeah, I love the shot with the early firearm. I mean, yeah. And I love the ending, man. The ending was great. The ending was great. Anyways, very good video. I really liked it. I think it was a great, very solid way to start the stream. Absolutely. Praise the sun, DND's nuts. Absolutely. Praise the sun. Yeah, I don't think you would cross arms while you're wielding a spear, Jay Murray. But then again, you know, things can happen in the heat of combat. In theory, muscle memory should avoid weird things. But then again, not everyone was the best, so I guess someone could still make a mistake during combat. Just one of those things, I guess. Still pretty good. I loved it. This was good. This was good. All right, so we can close the first tab. We've got 1 million. Close the first tab. We don't need this tab anymore. Okay. So let me see. We've got a lot of things to check out. So again, I'm going to check this one later because I don't know if I'm going to get copy claimed. And if I am, I'll just continue it on Twitch. That's what we do usually. If that happens. How about we have a look at the question for today's stream and we see what we think, what they say when it comes to, I don't even know why I'm taking my headphones off, but let's see what they say when it comes to this idea of ancient Roman versus Greek army, which was better. I mean, the Romans, but then again, let's see what they say. I'm interested to see how they're going to defend it because it's an hour video, which we're not going to watch. We'll only watch a little, sorry, we'll only watch a little bit. But then again, they did speak for an hour. So, yeah. They have got 2 helmets here, a brass reproduction of a Corinthian helmet. And then they've got a Imperial Gallic Type H. It's actually the exact same helmet that I have. This is like $100 and this is 150 probably. So this is very cheap, made in India helmets. It's not like they're great representations. But then again, their Gallic is okay. You know, this is fine. They've got much worse ones. The Gallic Type H is probably one of their best. So it's cheap, but it's not too bad. You can reenact with this. This one, I'm not a huge fan. I used to own one, and then I just gave it to someone who wanted it because, as I say, it's not the. There are better recreations, but it's fine for the purposes of the video. Let's see what they're gonna say. So we're gonna watch the introduction. We're going to watch half of the weapon part. We'll watch a little bit of the armor part. And then I think I will call it a day when it comes to this video. And we'll move to the next. But let's see if they can convince me that the Romans weren't the best at everything. Which they were. Objectively. So, yeah. Let's go.
It's this, see if it fits my oversized head. Nope. I gotta have some padding in here.
You do?
That was the main problem with the Greek helmet.
You just can't see
They're all
anything.
just too big.
Of course, it's a joke. I'm not going to be pedantic on what he said. It was just a joke. All right, let's go.
Hello, I'm Tristan Hughes. I'm the host of the Ancients podcast.
Hello.
I'm here for another YouTube video. Today I'm joined by my good friend and YouTube sensation, Dr. Ditch. No, sorry,
Sensation.
Dr. Rule Canine-a-Dike. Rule, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, and this is interesting. It's a completely new format. We are the test dummies for it, but it's a head-to-head history round, and it's the Roman legionary soldier versus the Greek hoplite. Are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
I'm
Let's
ready.
do it.
Glory to Rome.
Weapons. I've picked it up. Would you like to talk first of all about the weapons of a classical Greek hoplite?
Yeah.
Of course. So the classical Greek hoplite is kind of an iconic figure. I mean, you've probably all seen the image. The hoplite here, I mean, this is basically the fully armored hoplite figure that you get. So he's got a long spear. He's got a big round shield. That's a double grip shield. So he's got his arm stuck into an elbow grip.
Man, look at that system. With the connection here, you put it actually looks pretty. I don't know. Is it comfortable? Anyone here who does Greek reenactment? I never have. How comfortable is this? Because, I mean, it is heavy, to be fair. It really is heavy. Thank you so much, Jasper Owens, for gifting a Metatron membership. And thank you, Dr. Fi, for the Olive Garden fund. Man, I'm going to get dessert as well then, because the fund was $50 already. 52 to be precise. So now it's $72 to go to Olive Garden and make this Italian explode. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, by the way.
It's about sort of 90 centimeters in diameter. And you have to imagine as well, like these people are not like my extreme Dutch height, but like, you know, they would have been covered very significantly by a shield of that size. And then their offensive weapons, they are this very long spear,
Yeah.
which, you know, it varied in length. It didn't have a standard length. It's not like they sort of took out a tape measure and said, this is how long it's going to be. Somewhere between 2 meters and maybe 3, maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah. And do they hold it like 3/4 of the way down the shaft? Is that the usual? Or?
Yeah, so what you're seeing in this image is pretty much the idea. So it's balanced towards the rear, which is what the counterweight helps to.
Exactly, yeah, the bronze counterweight. Man, that is such a genius idea, by the way. The Greeks, much respect to the Greeks for that. Because this way you don't have to hold it in the middle. You can hold it here. It's a bit like when you have a sword, right? Swords are usually balanced depending on the sword. But in general, swords are balanced more towards the hilt, which allows you to use them more nimbly. Whereas like a mace, a warhammer, they're more balanced towards the end. So you can strike, you know, really make it count. But it makes them a bit unwieldy in comparison. So basically, that's what they're doing here. And I absolutely love it. This is Roel Kanindijk. I've reviewed his work before. Occasionally we disagree, but he's a fantastic historian and definitely shines when talking about ancient Greece more than Rome. In fact, a lot of my disagreements with him had to do with some things he said about Rome. But when it comes to Greece, yeah, the guy's really good.
To achieve. So this little thing here is called Sarater, sometimes a lizarder or lizard killer, because you presumably because you stab it in the ground, sometimes something gets caught in there. But fundamentally, it moves the point of balance further to the rear, which means that you have more reach to the front. Basically, you can use more of that shaft to stab ahead of you rather than having to balance it in the middle. And then the other weapon that they carry is a short sword, which you can see sort of tucked away here in the shield. There are two main types they use. One is the siphos, which is a sort of straight leaf-shaped sword, very similar to the Roman one. And the other is called kopis or makaira, which is more of a sort of axe dressed up as a sword. It's a slashing weapon, yeah. It's a recurved saber, so it leans forward, has most of its weight towards the tip. It's a very heavy weapon. It was prized for fighting on horseback because you can slash down with it very easily, but also in infantry combat it's very, very effective. It puts a lot of weight towards the tip of the blade, so you can crash through armor, you can break helmets, things like that.
I mean, that's a two-edged.
Okay, so a few things to say about that. I wanted to let him finish so that I don't interrupt too much, but there are a few things I would like to say. First, and this is me being a little pedantic, guys, but that's me. That's why you subscribed, so now don't complain. To me, this is not a short sword. Look at this beast. I know that that's how we call them. The gladius is a short sword, or at least that's how people call them. I don't. I stopped doing that because I was repeating that over and over again. And then I thought for a moment, and I'm like, well, a gladius is literally the length of my entire arm from the tip of my fingers all the way up to my shoulder. How is that short? And even this, it's a beast of a sword. The reason why we call them short, and again, I'm being pedantic, so it's not a disagreement, but it's like a food for thought. Let's put it this way. The reason why we call them short is because we think of medieval weapons. So clearly, if you look at, for instance, a medieval longsword, but even the average bastard sword or arming sword, yeah, they are a lot longer. That's due to the materials, among other things. So that's why we call them short swords. But they didn't have access to the Middle Ages, obviously, because they happened before. So from the perspective of classical antiquity, this is just a sword. And that's the length of a sword, right? Now, that length varies. The Pompey gladius tends to be a little shorter than the Mainz gladius, for instance. But in general, no one in classical antiquity would have ever considered this monster to be a short sword. So at the end of the day, I kind of stopped calling them short. I don't think they're short unless you compare them with an actual medieval sword, which puts 1,000 years of difference sometimes, depending on what era we're talking. And so, yeah, no, I don't like calling them short. It's not wrong, but it's just one of those things, you know, it's just, yeah. Anyways, I mean, at the end of the day, a long sword is going to be short compared to a pike, but it's not like I'm going to call it short. So that's kind of the idea that I wanted to provide. The other thing, the other nitpick that I had is this. To me, this is not an axe dressed as a sword, like he mentioned. And again, I am being pedantic. The reason being, though, is that this is something that we said, and I said too, because again, we repeat stuff. So when you look at something such as the falchion, people say it's a sword, but it behaves like an axe. The reality is that they don't. The only point in common that they have with an axe is, yes, they are top heavy. Great. But it's still a sword. So the way you use it, you wouldn't really use an axe to intercept and parry the same way you would with a sword. With this, you can still parry a lot more easily than with an axe. And it's just the way it functions is different. So yeah, that's pedantic me, and that's what we're here for. But anyways, I'm not necessarily disagreeing. He also mentioned that they could have used these to break helmets. Possible, actually. I don't think it would be like the intended use. I think the intended use, from the perspective of the ancients, would be to cut people in pieces. However, if you do hit a helmet, and the helmet that you hit is copper, bronze, brass, you could dent it. That could happen. I've actually tested it myself. I just don't think it was an intended purpose. It's just something that could happen. Yeah. Gladius better than copies. I agree. Not the topic of this discussion, Doc Boone, so no. Yeah. Kopesh is totally a sword. To me too, that's a sword. That's a sword in any stretch of definition. And yeah, and that's that.
It's a very heavy weapon. It was prized for fighting on horseback because you can slash down with it very easily, but also in infantry combat it's very, very effective. It puts a lot of weight towards the tip of the blades. You can crash through armor, you can break helmets, things like that.
I don't think you can crush through armor. I disagree. But then again, that's the only time where I actually disagreed. Up to this point, I was just being pedantic. But I do disagree that you can crash through armor just because you've got the weight towards the business end. It doesn't sound real. But who knows? Maybe he's right.
I mean, that's a two-edged sword as well, isn't it?
That's
so
right.
It can slash either way or stab.
Is it?
So the Sifos is for stabbing and slashing and, whatever you want to do with it. It's quite
Sifos,
short, but
okay.
it does have the two edges, whereas the Copies or Machaira has only a single edge.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, well, moving on to the classic Roman legionary, and I believe I've got one here, absolutely, yes. The classic image you do have of a Roman legionary soldier from the early imperial period, so from about like kind of 1 AD, 1 CE, kind of that area just before, all the way for the next couple of centuries or so. But the main weapon, I mean, let's talk about the sword first of all, because that's the weapon you think of first and foremost. The short stabbing sword, which you can see on the side here.
You see, everyone calls them short. I just, now that I made you notice this, you will be reminded every single time of my voice in your head. Every time someone says it, you will think of me.
It's not a short sword, you muppet.
That's what you're gonna be reminded of. I kind of ruined it for you. That object's been ceremonial when archaeologists haven't got an absolute clue what the object was used for. They always call it ceremonial. And the third thing is when they're either lazy or they just don't know what the material is, they'll say copper alloy. And I'm like, but can you tell me if it's brass? Can you tell me if it's bronze? If it is bronze, can you tell me what type of bronze? Is it tin bronze? Is it arsenical bronze? No, I've read entire books filled with copper alloy. Well, thank you. Yeah, so that's a scenario, I guess. Thank you very much, Dr. Phi, for the support. Do Macedonians count as Greek? Highly debated topic. If so, are we throwing Alexander the Great against Romans for comparisons? And are we talking Roman Kingdom or Empire? Well, I don't know. I think they're talking Empire, to be honest. And up to this point, I don't know if they're going to introduce the Macedonians specifically. Now, are the Macedonians Greek? I would say yes, but I'm actually building a video to defend that position. And but it is a highly debated topic. It is debated for different reasons. It is debated for modern politics when it comes to Northern Macedonia and Greece. They've been going at each other since the 60s over that topic. I'm not interested in that. I don't know the political underpinnings of that, and I don't care. They can keep fighting as much as they want. But I'm interested in the academic debate behind it, which has a dive into the linguistics of it, the way the Macedonian language was regionally as compared to the local dialects of the other city-states, the way they would interact, and the way the Persians refer to the Macedonians. So there is a lot when you actually tackle this question. It's just that you'll have to wait for the actual video that I've been preparing. But if I had to just give you a quick answer, I would say, yeah, Macedonians were Greek. So Alexander the Great was Greek, and that's what we say. I mean, you have heard me say Cleopatra was Greek, but Cleopatra is Macedonian in descent. So that already kind of answered the question, at least when it comes to my opinion. But since, as I say, it's debated, if your opinion is different, rather than maybe writing, I can't believe it, unsubscribe. Okay, just share your opinion, and then I'll look into it. And if you change my mind, great. But I have looked into this, and I've read both sides of the academic spectrum, just so you know. Yeah. Let's go.
In a lovely little scabbard as well. I'll talk about the scabbard in a bit later too.
Yeah, let's talk about the scabbard.
Short stabbing sword called a gladius. Now, earlier than the imperial period, the Roman legionary soldiers still did have like a short stabbing sword, but it was a bit longer. It gets a bit shorter by this time. And there are various different styles or different patterns to the gladius. So overall, it kind of retained the same purpose, like mainly for thrusting and stabbing, but you get different patterns. Like there's the Mainz pattern blade, which is kind of, it gets narrower in the middle and then bulges out and then into kind of a triangular tip. But then you get ones like the Pompey style blade, which is more kind of parallel all the way. But that was the main weapon of each Roman legionary soldier. Of course, we must also mention though the javelin, the pilum, which is also the thing that is very associated with a Roman legionary soldier, but there's also a lot of debate.
Since he mentioned the scabbard, we always do this because priorities, guys. Let's learn all together the Latin word for scabbard. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. That's the Latin word for scabbard. Just so you know, write it down. I don't think you need to write it down, to be honest. But yeah, let's study Latin with Metatron. Your first word in Latin is scabbard. Just so you know. That's it. Splendid. Okay, great. Might have to do with the sword going in the scabbard and whatnot. I don't know if there is double entendre. But that's the word. That's the word. Do remember classical pronunciation. The V is a W. And the G is a G, so pronunciation is a little different. You would pronounce this vagina, but you know what I mean. Pronounce it however you want. I don't judge. Let's get back to the video. Thank you very much, man. Learning Latin with Metatron. I dare you to forget it. Thank you very much. Let's go. It's funny. Let's go. Yeah, that's a word, mate. What can I tell you? That's a word in Latin. Yeah. No need to draw the sword. Yeah, I agree.
Around so many different parts of the Roman pilum. I mean, how many did a Roman legionary have? Was it 1? Was it 2? Some even argue that they may have had 3 javelins at 2.
Never heard of that.
Did it bend in the middle when it struck an enemy? And another one regarding, I mean, were there differences in the design? But the Roman javelin was used by Roman legionary normally at the start of a battle before engaging in close combat. And it's designed, you have the long wooden shaft, then you have this iron shank, and then you have this kind of diamond-shaped tip. Both of those main weapons, I mean, psychologically on the battlefield, they were terrifying.
It's worth saying about the pilum actually that compared to other javelins of the ancient world, it's really quite a heavy and very carefully designed weapon. Like most javelins in antiquity are basically just a stick with a small sort of metal point. It doesn't have the same counterweight. It doesn't have that whole mechanism of a long iron shaft that's sort of locked into it. So this is built for a specific purpose, which has been speculated about. The ancient authors will say that it's because...
I wonder who that is. Alexander the Great? Waiting for us? Maybe he never died, guys. He's here. Look, we've got a hand. We've got a hand. Yeah.
Of this attempt to kind of get stuck in someone's armor, disable shields, things like that. We don't really know, but like Greeks obviously also used javelins, infantry and cavalry both, but they were of a much simpler design. They did have a throwing loop to sort of go further and fly more accurately, but otherwise they didn't have this kind of level of design to try and fit a specific role on the battlefield. So they're really just much more like
specific role, Kanindike.
Go see what you can do with it.
I mean, and it's a really interesting design, and we've been saying we're using the word javelin quite a lot for the pilum, but we should also stress that actually, like if a Roman soldier was in a bit of a pinch, they could use the pilum as a spear. It gives you a bit extra reach as well, so kind of like the Greek hoplites. So it could be used, but usually when we hear about the pilum being used, it's at the start of the battle, it's being thrown, and then the Romans will charge in with their large scutum shield and their sword, their gladius sword, and kind of basically be a battering ram of kind of moving forwards, hitting them with the boss of the shield, then stabbing with the with the gladius, moving forwards, and that kind of battering around motion. One thing you can't see on this image would be the other kind.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, even though the pilum is not the best spear for hand-to-hand combat, it's because it's designed to be thrown. Still, if you stab someone in the eye, it's not like it's not gonna work. So I mean, there is that, and yeah, just one of those things, I guess. Yeah. Anyways, long-time viewer, thank you very much, Dice Chuck. So good to have you here. Oh yeah. I post on. I do stream on Twitch, and particularly in the evening, for a lot of gaming. Otherwise, I just multi-stream like we are right now, YouTube, and yeah, nobody wants to get poked in the eye. Apparently, my chat, guys, just for the people to know, no one wants to be poked in the eye. Just so you know, and yeah, that's the situation. But thank you for being here. So good to have you.
Kind of melee weapon that they would be using, which would be a Pugio dagger, which is much smaller than the gladius, but kind of similar in the design, that, you know, kind of have that triangular tip. And like with the gladius, it was designed, it didn't need to go deep into an enemy, but of course horrific wounds, hemorrhaging. It was another psychologically terrifying weapon, and I think there's
Oh no, don't use the psychological, the terrifying weapon, because you remind me of Simon Whistler. And I don't want, sorry, no, Simon Elliott, and I don't want to be reminded of them. Still, to be pedantic, because that's why you're here, this much penetration for the Pugio, I think it's deep, to be honest. Because literally, if you stab and the guys go no armor, as it often is the case when it comes to the enemies of Rome, exception being the Carthaginians and the Greeks, but in general, imagine the guy has no armor. You manage to stab that much, you can literally stab, go through the heart, through the rib cage, and go. Yeah, that's deep enough. That's deep enough. Pugio, man, imagine the ice pick grip with the Pugio. Yeah, no, yeah, that's that will do the job. That will do the job. I can't stand Simon Elliott. Just can't stand him. Sorry, too many lies.
also examples of legionaries going into battle in special cases with their pugios. In assassination of Julius Caesar, those assassins, you can imagine them smuggling in, kind of hiding pugios in their togas, and that's how they did away with Julius Caesar. And I guess you could say the scutum shield, although we see it as armor.
Roll seemed very happy to think about the stabbing of Julius Caesar. We need to examine this, a little bit of body language analysis here. Why is he so happy about Julius Caesar being stabbed to death? Huh? I don't know, man. And where is the hand? Where did he go? Where is the... Oh, that's why he's smiling. Because the guy went away. Alexander the Great, he knows. He knows.
Caesar. And I guess you could say the scutum shield, although we see it as armor, it is also a weapon in its own right, like I guess the hoplite shield, because it has this big iron boss in the middle that, you know, if you hit an enemy with it, you could break their nose. It's got iron and some of the rims of the curved rectangular shield as well, that if you hit an enemy's foot with it as well, it could cause big damage.
Can't do that with a hoplite shield. It just won't go that far.
But can the hoplite shield, can it also be used like as an offensive?
You absolutely would use it that way. I mean, it's always depicted that way. I mean, hoplites are always depicted essentially protecting themselves by raising this thing up to make a sort of glasses, right? To make a sort of slanted armor. But obviously, you can try to use that also to try and do a shield bash, I guess, with the side. But this is...
I would like to explain, to say one thing now, because I always hear it's mostly historians. I occasionally reenactors, but it's mostly historians then tell you, oh, and you can use the scutum to hit someone in the nose. Yeah, and you can use the Greek shield as well to hit someone in the face. Yeah, and you can use this Kermit the Frog book to smack someone in the face. And you can use this iPhone to smack someone in the head. And you can use this Xbox controller. You hold it like this, right? This is going to be the business end. You take your nice swing. Wait, I need to demonstrate. You take a nice swing. You tell them, hey, look, Julius Caesar. Then they turn around, boom, smack them with this right in the temple. So yeah, I would like to underline to all historians out there, that you can use any solid object as a weapon. It's not the discovery that oftentimes people, and it's not even them, I have nothing against them, man, but I've heard people telling it like they had rediscovered the wheel. They're like, oh, you could use the shield to smack someone in the face. And you could use the floppy disk from my Amiga 500 to smack someone in the face. Probably not very effective, but the level of effectiveness of that smacking in the head will be proportional to the growth in size and weight of the object that you're using to smack them in the said face. So there is that. Thank you. So there is that. Appreciate it.
Something that's debated among reenactors, because some of them have tried it. They say you can't do it. Others will say, oh, you're too tight in this formation to be able to use that effectively. It is much more of a defensive weapon, I think, than the scutum, which has this sort of attested practice of being used as a way to fight, as a way to drive the enemy.
It's two different kind of uses of weapons, isn't it? I mean, there's no getting away from, the Roman imperial soldier like this being like the...
Thank you so much, IB Rebecca. I appreciate you like the hairstyle. Thank you so much.
best and most feared unit, I would say, at the time on the military battlefield. But
unless they meet an elephant. Yeah.
Unless they, well, yes, exactly. But I mean, what would you say about it? It's two different types of weapons, main weapons, whereas the Roman legion soldier is using a sword, which feels quite different to so many years previously in ancient warfare, where the spear is the main weapon of choice.
The spear is king, right? That's the kind of idea that you get. And it's important to note, as you say, about the psychology of facing these weapons, of encountering them. I mean, they have the expression, obviously, we take conquered by the sword. Their phrase is aik malotos, conquered by the spear, right? Taken by the spear is their expression for conquest. So the spear is the sort of iconic weapon that you would use. And when they talk about the danger of battle, metaphorically, they can talk about a storm of spears. They can talk about what you do in battle is face the spears. That is essentially the function of an infantryman. And so in that sense, like the psychology of it is really all deciding. It's like, which weapon do you think is the most sort of awe-inspiring, essentially? Which weapon?
Yeah, no, I like, as I say, I do like Roel Kanindijk, and it's the way he explores and goes deeper. When it comes to the psychology of combat in classical antiquity, rather than focusing on, oh, this is a terror weapon, they say that of the longbow, the terror weapon of the Middle Ages. Fine, it's a fine point. I'm not going to disagree with it. I am more interested, however, in reading those sources that we have from ancient Greece and from ancient Rome that deal actually with the psychological responses that soldiers had before the clash of battle. That, when we actually discuss psychology of combat, is what really interests me the most. And there are some sources that mention, for instance, that right before fighting into battle, the young men in fact, but the men that were hoplites in ancient Greece would bite their lips. We are told about that. They would rub their heels sometimes. So imagine that you're standing and you start, maybe you lift a little bit with your right leg and start rubbing the back of your heel against your calf. That's described in the sources. And these are physical responses to obviously anxiety, and they are self-soothing behaviors, and they can be studied psychologically, and it really creates a connection, because often when we imagine them, we imagine these battle-hardened tough guys, which they were. I mean, particularly if compared to the likes of me and regular people that have an everyday life and whatever, but they were still humans, and a lot of them were young. So yes, we have this exact descriptions of the type of fidgeting and fiddling that clearly are showing a response to stress. And it's in the sources. So when we talk about the psychology of combat, that's what I'm more interested in, rather than thinking, oh, the bow is a terror weapon, the spear is a terror weapon. Yeah, every weapon is a terror weapon. It's not like being smacked in the forehead with a mace is less terrifying than being stabbed with a spear. But I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, just wanted to add, since the idea of psychology in combat was mentioned, then we do have sources. Obviously, he's 100% aware of it since he's a professional, and they tell us about it, and it's fascinating. It's a way to counter cognitive load of the moment before the clash with your enemy. Fascinating stuff.
Weapon do you think of as the default? If you were to grab any weapon and fight, what is it that you go for? In the Greek mind, this is absolutely going to be these long spears, because that is how you can inflict terrible wounds while staying at a safe distance.
But that is also the thing. I remember talking to a reenactor, but also someone who works at the Kalkriese Museum in Germany, the Warschlacht Museum, where theorized, and there's a lot of evidence for it, that that was one of the battles of the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. And he was talking about the use of potentially keeping one of your pilums back, not throwing them all,
Because
you have that more distance. And I guess there is still that mindset of keeping distance, but at the same time, you know, it's a different psychological mindset to a Roman legionary soldier.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is always like reenactors are always trying to figure out, you know, what's the best weapon, what's the most effective way of using it, and obviously there's a whole sort of YouTube discourse about this kind of thing where they try and test it out.
Here I am.
The thing is, ancient sources don't talk about it that way, right? They don't necessarily care about what happens in one-to-one fights, because that's not how you win battles.
Right.
You win battles by overwhelming the enemy's psychological resistance, essentially their ability, their willingness to stay in that fight. And so it is, in a sense, a lot more important to be scary than to be sort of the most effective or the optimized warrior. And in that sense, I do think that, you know, first the Macedonian pike phalanx, and then later the Roman legionary, they had an edge over many of their enemies because they were in a way terrifying.
Was when we talk about.
I would like to add to that, because someone is actually asking here in chat as well, and you're asking, Lord, how did the Romans gain so much land? So yes, this is one of the components that now the historian is mentioning, or people were scared of you. For instance, the Mongols, we know, used a lot of that sort of psychological tactic. But if I had to put, your ability to be effective in hand-to-hand combat as a unit, I mean, the Romans trained like maniacs, so that had to have been also extremely central from the perspective of a Roman, not just looking scary. In fact, to me, that's more important than looking scary. I would put it an edge above. Professional warrior soldiers that know that drill, that fight a lot, that have a physique coming from training, swimming. That's what the sources suggest to me. I agree with him, not necessarily one-to-one. You want them to be able to be effective as a cohesive unit, so I do agree with him partially. This idea you gotta look scary, though, yeah, it's part of it. I just wouldn't put it that high. It's just one extra brick as we build a wall of success and effectiveness in combat. But when it comes to the Roman, it's not just that. It's also the incredible professional tacticians, the legati, the generals, the overall professionalism of the armies, which was one of the main differences between Rome and Greece, is that Rome was more professional. And Rome was more professional than anything up until the modern period, by the way. The Roman legions were less technologically advanced than medieval armies, but they were more professional. They were more professional. And last but not least, the Romans had logistics and a massive economic backbone that also supported the armies. They could field more men. They could go in a lot of different places. They were very well coordinated. There is a lot that goes into why the Romans were so effective. There's a lot of things. All right, let's have a look at the armor. What are they going to say?
The next point is armor.
I'll start with this one. I mean, we'll go from top to bottom. We've got an interesting replica of the classic Roman legionary helmet of the early imperial period. Now, of course, it gets a bit more armor added to it and reinforced over time, as I'll talk to. But this one seems, well, first of all, the Roman legionary helmet wasn't meant to be very heavy. There was discovered in a field in Suffolk the Hawkton helmet, which some believe is actually, although it looks similar to a Roman legionary helmet, they believe it's a gladiator's helmet because it's much heavier and more kind of used for maybe like 20-minute bouts as for a gladiator.
And it seems
but the Roman helmet was not meant to be like overly heavy.
Of course.
You have a lot of protection for the wearer. First of all, mainly made out of iron, maybe a bit of brass around as well. But you have, first of all, let's talk about this rim guard at the front. This is to protect against slashing weapons down, because one of the main areas that an enemy will be trying to attack is the face. So you've got added protection for the rim guard, and also to kind of prevent blows from hitting like the nose and the front of the face, because you don't have that noticeable nose guard as you do with the like classical Greek hoplite. You've got the kind of flappy cheek pieces as well. Once again, that's extra protection.
This is true, but what he just said only applies to the Corinthian helmet. There are plenty of other helmets in Greek army that have zero protection for the face. So I wouldn't say, I know that they are comparing these two only, but these two are not the only representatives of a typical Greek helmet and a typical Roman helmet. They are in our collective imagination right now, but there are a lot of helmets like that are completely open in the face here for the Greeks as well. Hey, Lady Jennifer, so good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Against slashing swords and so on that you'll be facing for an Iron Age warrior and so on. You have at the back this big neck guard as well. Once again, the same kind of thing, extra protection against people wanting to slash down on your face. Over time, I don't really see how much you can see on this one. This one looks a bit of kind of decorative design, but there is a bit of contested debate around the beginning of the 2nd century AD when the Emperor Trajan invades Dacia, which is modern-day Romania, and
Yes.
the Dacians, I'm sure you know, they're renowned for having this double-handed, scythe-like polearm slashing weapon called a falx. And apparently, well, it is contested, but one line of argument is that because these falxes were so devastating when slashing down, to give the legionaries extra equipment, they had a kind of like almost crossbars
Yeah.
to the top to kind of
Absolutely.
help absorb more of those blows.
Can I be obnoxious for a second? Probably people will click away. He did say that the backplate was used to protect the face. The backplate was used to protect the neck. Thank you. That's the condescending Metatron of the day.
But that is the standard kind of design of a Roman legionary helmet.
Yes.
Further down, you have perhaps the most recognizable part of a Roman legionary's armor,
go.
which is the lorica segmentata. Now, I love the
As
lorica
seen in Asterix
segmentata.
comics, yeah.
As seen in Asterix comics. At the same time, we don't know what the Romans called it. Lorica segmentata literally means segmented armor, and that's the modern name for it. We know they called chainmail hamata, but we don't know.
I actually think that, no, they didn't call that. He's incorrect with this one. So before I was just being funny, okay? I like him as a presenter. I was just being funny. With the neck, the face, he just misspoke. It's fine. I do it all the time. I'm the master of misspeaking. But this one he got wrong. The Romans did not call it hamata. Hamata is as much as a neologism as segmentata is. They called it gallica. Exactly, Ryan. Or they just called it armor. We have mentions for both. Sometimes they just called it armor, and other times they call it gallica. But lorica hamata, which comes from hamus, which is the ring, it's not a period term, just like lorica segmentata is not a period term. Some have speculated, I don't know if he's going to say that maybe instead of calling it segmentata, it was called laminata. And the only reason why that may be a bit more probable than segmentata, which is a neologism, is simply because we don't know what it was called, but we do know that what they called the actual segments of the girth hoops. And they were called laminae. Lames, basically. So since we know they called those laminae, and one would be a lamina, then it is possible that they called it lorica laminata, but we don't know, unfortunately. But yeah.
What they called this style. And it seems to have been introduced around the beginning of the 1st century AD or just before that.
Just before,
and that is
yeah.
because some of the earliest archaeological evidence we have, and best archaeological evidence we have for the lorica segmentata, comes from Germany and that site of Calcresa that I've mentioned, where you have basically 3/4 of this plate armor, of this kind of segmented armor surviving. And archaeologists have been able to garner a lot from that beauty.
For those of you who are interested in I'm not correcting him, it's fine, he's speaking English, but for those of you who are interested in Latin and the precise phonemic vowel length, this vowel, the O and the E, are both long, so it's lorica, and then segmentata. So this A is long, so lorica segmentata is how you pronounce it. Believe it or not, as a modern Italian, I actually find it difficult to lengthen the O, because as an Italian, I would either say lorica or lorica. I wouldn't, but the idea that I have to lengthen this, a bit like Romani, that's also another weird one that I have to lengthen the O, but that's how it is. Latin has a massive difference in terms of length of vowels, and it's phonemic, meaning that if you pronounce the vowel long or short, will influence the meaning of the word. There will be a semantic shift. That's, for example, how the apple in the Bible, in Adam and Eve, that's where it came from, because in the original Hebrew there is no apple. It's a round fruit. Full stop. We have no idea what kind of fruit that is. The only reason why in the Vulgate in Latin it became the apple is because you can create a little bit of a double, like not a joke, but like a double meaning, because malus and malus, they sound almost the same, the only difference being the length of the vowel, and it can mean apple or evil. So that's why the apple is in the Bible in English and in Italian and in modern languages. In the original, it's just a round fruit. It could be a date. It could be an orange. We have no way to know. No way to know.
Beautiful piece of kit. It's made up of about 40 iron plates, And it's fastened together with kind of copper alloy washers,
Copper
and
alloy.
buckles, leather surviving on it too from that
Muppet.
archaeological discovery from Calcresa, which gives people more of a sense of how it was tied together. And the fascinating thing there is not just the outside, it's the inside of the armour as well, where they found these buckles as well
Yeah.
to kind of tighten it.
Yeah.
And the first version of it, it seems that it is just kind of almost kind of tank topish. There's not much shoulder protection. That is added later. There are later examples of Lorica segmentata, places like Corbridge and Newstead in Scotland as well, where bits have survived. And it seems that there's more arm protection, and also the outside buckles are removed, and it's just kind of kept inside because they seem to be a bit more. It could easily get knocked off, kind of thing, and damage the equipment.
Wonderful armor, by the way. Thunderwing asks, is bro a long or short vowel? It's a long vowel because in English a lot of long vowels become a diphthong, and so you have O, bro. That's a long vowel. Since you really want to know. Yeah. Copper alloy, oh my gosh, copper alloy, you muppet.
Something I want to point out, no greaves. No greaves in a Roman legionary soldier of the imperial period. There had greaves earlier
Before,
on,
yeah,
at least on
he's
one
right.
foot, on one leg.
He's right.
But by this time, there are no greaves at all there. And a manica, I guess, is the other thing you should mention. It seems to be later on that this arm guard is added to their right arm, maybe during the Dacian Wars as well with the falx, a bit of added protection, but we do know that manicas are added later on.
Yeah.
I think I've gone through everything.
What is cool about the Latin word manica is that we still have the exact same word in modern Italian, pronounced exactly the same way, manica, and it just means sleeve. And it meant sleeve. It's just the same word. They didn't even bother to change it in 2,000 years, longer than that, in fact. So these are maniche in modern Italian. This is a manica. Yeah, so that's kind of it's kind of a cool little thing right there, I guess. Interesting, your insight into the Bible always fascinates me. I do have a video dedicated to Adam and Eve, but I could make more because that area alone of Genesis, there is so much to say. But yeah, thank you, appreciate that.
Is the armour of a Roman legionary soldier.
There you go.
Over to you.
Let's go.
Yes, so the Greek hoplites, obviously, they have very iconic armor, so it's very easy to sort of talk about it. This is the main item that I think is just widely recognized, the Corinthian helmet, right?
Yeah.
This gets introduced, or at least we first see it on vases, and then later we have loads and loads and loads of dedicated examples. So at Olympia, they have shelves and shelves of these, right? Wow. Corinthian-style helmets from the Archaic period. The funny thing is that around the time we mostly talk about the Greeks, in the classical period, time of the Persian Wars and after, until the time of Alexander, these things they're still around. Some people might use them, but they've kind of gone out of style. So this kind of thing is an early form of armor, which is very comprehensive, as you can see. It covers the whole face with these long cheek plates. It's got the nose guard. It's got this, at the back, you can see it's got a sort of neck guard here as well that extends quite far down.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's kind of the same thing as the Roman helmet, just sort of less sticky outy, which is the technical term.
More similar to the previous Montefortino, which makes sense when it comes to the time scale a little more. So yeah. Why are there ads? Welcome to YouTube, Lord Vesa. What I tell you. Yeah. Yeah. Good for protecting the face, is it? Yeah, exactly. Like is he gonna? Oh, if he's gonna say it, then I'm gonna think I'm in an alternate reality where this is the face and this is the neck. Oh, did you know the joke about the neck? I can't say it now because he's a good-looking guy. But imagine for a second that he was ugly. We could tell him, is that your face or did your neck just throw up? Can't use it on him though. It's a good one though.
Yeah.
And then basically it covers the whole face, except for initially it doesn't even have ear holes. This one has a few sort of small sort of bits where you can see that the ears might have, so sound would have come in more easily. The idea is that this offers sort of fairly comprehensive protection, but it's often been argued that it's actually quite stifling, it's quite restricting. So you can't hear very much, you can't see very much, it's quite heavy. And you have to imagine that on top of this, they would usually have had a crest or even a double crest, so you'd have quite extensive decoration on top of this. It's made of bronze, not iron, which is one of the big differences between the two. Now, I think reenactors are not necessarily so convinced that this is so restrictive. Like they tend to think that there's, depending on the design, you can actually see and hear what you need to see and hear. But it certainly seems that this iconic shape, it just kind of didn't really stick around for more than a few centuries before other types started to overtake and started to become more common. So for instance, on this image, you actually have this guy wearing an Attic helmet. So this is a different style, which later becomes actually the Roman sort of typical Roman Republican helmet for officers.
It's kind of similar with the cheek pieces there.
Exactly.
You can see,
so it's got the cheek pieces, it's got a more articulated neck guard, it's got a bit of a sort of cap at the front.
In fact, the cheek pieces were so ubiquitous in the Mediterranean world that I have found some, with my lead researcher, we were noticing that sometimes there are mentions among the Celtic and Germanic tribes mostly, that they would remove them. And there are a few, like imagine if they loot some helmets from Roman legionaries, some of them would detach them. And you're like, why would you do that? Because you lose the protection. We don't know. It's speculative. Maybe it's because they didn't think they really needed it. Maybe they were like, I don't need that. I'm good with my shield. Maybe. That could be like something. I can see a Germanic warrior thinking that way. The other possibility that was presented by another historian is that maybe they looked too distinctively Roman/Mediterranean to them. And so, imagine like if you're looting a uniform of your enemy, even from a modern perspective, you're going to remove the symbols. You don't want to be, and so maybe it's an interesting food for thought. I'm not saying that that's how it is, but it is possible. And they covered up the epic beards. I mean, true, but the Greeks have some epic beards too, particularly the philosophers. So there is that. Hello, Makariv. Good to see you here. Oh, also, I wanted to acknowledge, I think I did, but I just want to make sure. Maybe I didn't. Thank you, Daniel Edwards. I said Daniel Edwards. Daniel Edwards, thank you very much for the Metatron membership. I apologize for taking I saw it and then I forgot to, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I think I read everything else. And thank you, Jasper, again for your support from earlier on. Yeah.
Still has a crest, but it's sort of a more complex design, but definitely more open-faced, lighter. It leaves more visibility, it leaves more room for the ears. And there are other designs that are even more open-faced, and in particular in the classical period, one helmet that seems to become really popular among the Greeks, so-called pilos helmet, based on a felt cap that may initially have been the cap you wore inside of a bigger helmet, but it becomes just made in bronze, and it's just a cone, it's just a sort of...
It's a conical one, isn't it?
It's just a cap, exactly. Yeah. And so it's very plain, it doesn't have the cheek guards, although sometimes it does. It doesn't have a neck guard, it's literally just a sort of cone that you put on your head. Much in the style of like helmets that you might see in World War II or something like that, which is a very basic sort of cap that might protect all the important parts without trying to sort of encase you entirely in metal.
No, and also it's interesting. So this is the classic. When it's the Roman army is a professional army. Yep. So yes, although there will be small differences in it, maybe with design and particular design styles, but in regards to the overall look and function, this is kind of a regular that you see for more than 100 years. And actually preceding it, you do have like the Montefortino helmet, which is all like, I'm not going to say it's exactly the same as the Pilos, but it's more kind of that idea.
It's just a cap, a bowl, like you put the
it's better than a Pilos in my opinion, because then again, you would add the cheek guard over here. You do have a little bit of protection in the neck. Did you know that early historians actually did it wrong? And they thought that this was the front, and they called it a cap, and they were wrong. This is the back, and then eventually they figured it out. This is, I like the Montefortino helmet. It's called Montefortino because that's where it was found. What was it called in period? Man, I actually know, I knew the term for this one. Maybe it was conus? No, that's different. Colus is a different one. I don't remember the exact term for this one in Latin. I used to know it. I'll have to ask my researchers. I forgot it. But it wasn't Montefortino, obviously, because that's just the name of the place where it was found in Italy. It's a nice little helmet, though.
On your head, there are a couple of bits sticking out, but otherwise it's very simple.
Yeah, and like earlier in the Mid-Republic as well, you have like more, chainmail is prominent, but also for those who couldn't afford chainmail when they have to buy their own armor, some of them have like a bronze pectoral in the middle, the classic image of the Hastati soldiers.
Cardiophylax are they can be a square, they can be rhomboid, and they can be circular, just protecting the heart. Yeah.
Just like they have that one bit of bronze in the middle, aim here, please. Like, don't aim here, which I find really, really interesting. And the shield, I think, is a bit bigger too. The eye, you mentioned that thing about the ears, which actually I forgot to mention about this one, which is really interesting. Talking to someone at it was Leeds Armories about it, a reenactor or experimental archaeologist about it a couple of years ago, and he mentioned when talking about kind of the ears of here, how there's a bit more protection added at the sides, and yes, protection was one of the things. He also said it could be that it was to amplify sound. So if the battlefield is a very noisy place, people are dying, shouting, all that stuff, and that just helps amplify sound. Now I haven't
Sounds made up to me, to be honest. Sometimes historians make stuff up. It doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes they do. I think there are some academics that overcomplicate stuff, but to me it's just protection. I could be wrong though. Maybe he's right. Who knows? Maybe he's right. Maybe.
Tested it myself, so I can't say, but that's another reason. Like visually, I have worn one of these helmets along with the segmentata and the caligae and everything. Like, it does have that. You don't feel restricted at all.
Yeah, it's very open, right?
Yeah,
you can see what you need to see.
And I guess that kind of not having a nose piece at all, I think, is kind of countered by having this rim at the front as well for overall slashing. Hopefully as well. Some people said the nose is obviously the most kind of, could potentially be the worst, the least protected part.
But it's a key difference. So the Corinthian helmet is made out of a single piece of bronze, right? So you have a plate of bronze, and by hammering it slowly into a shape, you essentially create this whole, everything about this, right? There are no parts added. I mean, sometimes there are some cases known with repairs, but otherwise this is just one piece of bronze. And so the difference with that helmet is that for all sorts of reasons, things have been added to the design, but they have actually been added. So you have a little piece where you can attach a crest, you have some hooks where you can sort of, you can wrap it up, you have the cheek pieces, you have the ear pieces, you have the neck guard, all of these things have been added, all these bits get added to it. In that sense, this is a much simpler thing to do, although it's much harder to make in the sense that you have to get it just right. But it's a very simple thing in a sense. It's a very simple design. It's a single piece, can't go wrong. Nothing can happen to it. But that also means that it's very monolithic. The design isn't adapted much. It doesn't change very much over time. Cool. So this is why the other helmets presumably became very popular. So you have all these different other types: the Attic, the Illyrian, the Chalcidian, all these different types of helmets that come in over time.
Should we talk briefly about other types of body armor?
Yeah. So on the image you can see a muscle cuirass. So this is the kind of thing that, we have loads of examples of this from southern Italy and from Olympia and other places where these things get dedicated. So you have the muscle cuirass, which is the typical sort of hoplite armor. It consists of two big slabs of bronze, essentially. You clip them at the shoulder and at the sides. You just they fold over the body. Essentially very straight, very, very plain, very simple. Nice. Compared to the Lorica segmentata in particular, with all its little pieces and straps and this and that.
They're big on abs, right?
To the abs, you get this. So later on, they start to have this musculature all developed in there. So this is from the sort of 5th.
And then the Italian ones used in Rome were actually a lot more decorated here, particularly if it's an emperor or a general. They loved decorating the front of where your pectoral muscles are. The Greeks tended to keep them plain. Yeah. Oh, did you know that in Rome, actually, they had two different measures? They had the long ones and they had the short ones. The short ones actually cut at your waist. I've only seen them in iconography in connection to the Navy, though. That doesn't mean that it was a Navy thing, but I'm just saying, just to tell you that. The only evidence that I've seen in iconography of a shorter muscle cuirass, I've seen it in connection to a Navy officer. But yeah, they both existed.
Century onwards, you start to see these kinds of things. Initially, that design is very plain, it's very schematic. So you have a couple of sort of circles to indicate pectorals. You might have a little sort of arc to indicate the abdomen, but it's very simple. And they will have much more pronounced. So here at the bottom, you can see this actually just stops here at the hip. And the early ones have a sort of pronounced flange there. They have a sort of rim, which is why they're called bell cuirasses, because they tend to have the shape of something resembling a bell. So that is, it's hypothesized that because in the early period, people who could afford this were the wealthy, they would travel around on horseback. It's actually,
I was going to say maybe on chariot, but sure.
Quite nice to have that extra sort of lift so that you can move your legs around, so you can raise your legs when you're on horseback. So it's a nice sort of design that suits the elite standard of this kind of armor. Because the thing is, the difference between a Roman legionary, even in the Republican period, there's a requirement, certain types of weaponry or certain types of armor and equipment, you just had to buy it, right? That was required. Whereas hoplites, they're just citizens. So they can come to the battle with whatever they can afford. And that also means that there's going to be a lot of variety we've seen in helmets, but also in terms of body armor. Some guys are going to be wearing the bell cuirass or later these nice muscle cuirasses made of bronze. but others don't have that. So the other main design is a cuirass that's called tube and yoke, or this linothorax. So this is a piece of armor that is made out of some organic material, and it's a long, tedious debate over whether this is leather or linen or something else.
Flax.
Absolutely, yeah, there is. I wanted to see if he was going to go into the debate. I do believe it's linen. I'm on the side that believes it was layers and layers of linen, glued together possibly, and then with animal glue or vegetable glue, and then because if you put, I mean, at the end of the day, if you take paper and stack it, it gets difficult to stab through, even just paper. So I can see that's why I believe that. And some of these were reinforced with some scales of bronze, for instance, on the abdomen, like that. That does happen sometimes. But yeah, I believe it would have been actual linen.
Or flax. Basically, so materials that are flexible but can be layered up to be quite protective. And that can be reinforced with iron sort of scales or little plates and things like that as well. So you see that, for instance, in the Alexander mosaic, which is then it's a beautiful image of that kind of decorated linen cuirass. So that's the kind of armor that you might see as well. It's a very simple design. Again, it's literally a tube and yoke. It's a single piece. So you fold it up and then the flap comes over the top. So basically you have these two sort of strips coming over your shoulder tied in the middle, and that sort of secures the whole thing.
Lovely.
Alexander. Again, it's a much simpler design, but basically what you see in the early designs with Lorica segmentata are that sort of idea. Like you have just single straps over the shoulder and the rest is a tube essentially. So that's the other design. But obviously there would have been many hoplites going into battle with none of that because they couldn't afford any of the armor, or because they felt the shield by itself would be enough to protect them. And
that is the massive difference, by the way, between Rome and any other power, once again, with the Carthaginian being a little bit of an exception, is that every single Roman was wearing armor and was well equipped. And the standardization of the idea of every soldier is going to be in armor is massive. Even of course, you could have Celtic warriors and Germanic warriors. Their leaders would be in armor, but the common people, not so much. But the Romans, every single one of them. So yeah, this is why I think the Mediterranean powers, when it comes to Carthaginians, Romans, and up to a certain extent the Greeks as well, but to a lesser degree, the idea of having professional armies fully equipped, fully armored, tactically trained, it's massive. It's massive. Like in the classical period, it's the Mediterranean. Yeah, I say as a proud Mediterranean man. Did women ever wear armor? Yes, there are contexts, of course. For a woman to wear armor, she needs to be in the context of war, which is extremely rare. But if we consider it as an oddity, then there are some contexts in which women would wear armor, absolutely, like the women in the Celtic reality, almost none. In fact, a lot of it is mythological in Celtic realities, like the Brittonic or the Gallic. The Gallic, so the Gauls. But if you go into the steppes of Eurasia, then you have people like the Sarmatians, even in some areas of the Akkadian kingdoms, or if you look at the Ayazyges, these are populations of the steppes that did have the notion of a certain small percentage of women are trained in combat and do participate in fighting. And in fact, we have mentions in the sources that tell us that the Roman clashed with some of these and they defeated them, but they said that they were surprised when they removed the helmets and to discover, oh, these were women. So it tells us two things. One, they weren't expecting women to fight. Two, they didn't notice a difference when they were fighting. So they were capable, and they are described as wearing bronze scale and fighting with spear from horseback. So yeah, no, they exist. Women warriors do exist. It's just that they are very rare, and there will be certain cultures where this would happen. But in the Mediterranean world, no, just like the rest of the world, was men that went to war. But if you look like even the Japanese, then you do have some onabugeisha, which is what the term they use for some women that were trained in combat. Still, it's a smaller percentage, but they do exist, absolutely. And then, yeah, the Amazon warriors, even though it's a mythological concept, they were most likely inspired by real fighters from the steppes that the Mediterraneans looked at as something, oh wow, That's strange because usually it doesn't happen. And so it goes into the legend. So did you know that these people have women warriors? That kind of situation. But yeah, no, they exist. Sarmatians are one type that I would tell you to check out if you're interested in that. Yeah, likely, in fact, they were inspired by whatever people of the steppes that had this characteristic. There are even mentions of these tribes that if you were a woman and you had certain status, you had to defeat in combat 3 men and kill them before you would be considered available to marry. So like for a man to be interested and be like, yeah, that's a woman. There are situations like that. It's just that they are very, very isolated, tribalistic realities of the people of the steppe. Yeah. Didn't King Henry VIII have custom armor made for himself? Yeah, and most nobles will. Absolutely. And then some of the armor they have sometimes are gifts from other nobles as well. That happens. So, yeah.
Then on this image, you have him also wearing greaves, which are very typical Greek design. They're also single-piece bronze. They don't seem to have any lining of any kind, and they don't have hinges, so they just clip around your legs. They're quite soft. Obviously bronze is quite sort of bendable, so you just sort of fit them over your legs. You kind of step into them and fit into them. And again with greaves, optional. You see the iconic hoplite obviously with all this kit, helmet, cuirass, greaves, but most hoplite warriors probably wouldn't have carried greaves because that is the least sort of essential part of all of this armor. Although most of these warriors would have worn a helmet, only maybe 1 in 10 or some small minority would have actually worn a cuirass, and maybe 3 in 10 or something like that would have worn greaves.
Very cool. Anyways, I don't want to react to the whole thing. There are quite a lot of sections also because it's a very recent, 5 hours ago. So I'm going to stop here. But if you were entertained and you liked how they were presenting the topic, I thought it was really interesting, very fun, then I got you something to watch for later or for tomorrow, because there is still a lot. There is still a lot to discuss. Yeah. There are mentions of female warriors during Rome's invasion of Colchis. Yeah, no, I think I'm aware of what you're talking about. And I mean, there are, as I was saying a minute ago, how like in the Gallic tradition, you don't really have the concept of a woman warrior unless it's mythological. But you do have mentions of, for example, the Romans defeating all the men from a tribe, and the women pick up the axes and start fighting back against the Romans, and they get defeated. But there are mentions of situations like that. So, and then again, during sieges, sometimes, usually women and children would be, put somewhere safe. But there are mentions specifically against the Romans again, and against maybe the Macedonians, where like a town was under siege and they needed people. So like the men are starting to die. And so the women start to throw rocks and help moving the weapons, help moving taking away the sick. So the sick, like there are situations like that. It's just usually it's like the exception to the rule. But yeah, absolutely. In the modern sense, in general, Jasper Owens, sure. I mean, it is a fact that usually women. It's not that they are just biologically less strong than men on average. We're talking averages, of course. And clearly, if you find me now, the one MMA woman, and put her against the guy who never went to the gym in his life and just spends time doing something, of course, that's different. But I'm saying on averages, men are stronger than women physically. That's a fact. With that being said, when you enter weapons into the equation, for instance, I mean, my wife is an excellent shot. I'm just going to leave it at that. But I'm just saying, like in general, when you enter weapons into the equation, then the situation becomes different. But when it comes to classical antiquity in the medieval period, a woman, if you give a woman who is interested in combat, the majority are not, but if a woman is interested in combat and you train her in HEMA even today, she can defeat a man. But if they are of equal training and equal technique, yeah, I mean, my money will be on the guy at that point if he's stronger, as he most likely will be. But then again, it's one of those situations. I think sometimes people also drive this point to the extremes, and they tell you a woman would never defeat a man in combat with swords, and that's nonsense, because all you need really is to make one mistake, and I've seen it. And I mean, if you practice HEMA, you know this. One stab with a longsword, and it goes inside the cavity of your eye or in your throat. Doesn't matter how much stronger you are in terms of muscle. muscle at that point. It's just that if we're talking percentages, then yes, statistically, the guy can try to overpower a woman, and it's more easily, usually on averages, and that's just a reality. But as I say, it's important to maintain a certain level of logical consistency, because I've seen both ends. I've seen people say, no, women are just as strong as men. And I'm like, that's not true. It's like, it's statistically, it's not the case. Particularly when it comes to upper body strength, the difference is significant. But then again, there are also the people that tell you nonsense, like no woman will ever defeat a man in combat, which is objectively not true, particularly if you put weapons into the equation, which can be equalizers depending on the weapon. So there is that. Yeah, it's just one of those situations. I guess you just got to keep it. I think people get emotional about it. Just talk about the cold facts. Just talk about the cold facts. It's just how it is. Just how it is. Yeah. Anyways, cool. All right, I like the video. Very nice. All right, we're going to test our luck now, guys. We're going to test our luck. So there is a video. That could get my stream blocked. So we're going to test it now. It's this one here. I'm going to try and watch it. But if the stream does get blocked on YouTube, I know on Twitch it doesn't happen. But if you see that at one point you see stream no longer available, copyright problem, if that happens, don't worry. It has happened already before. What I do is that I revert to full screen camera. It usually takes between 60 to 120 seconds, and then I'm back on the stream is back, and the copy claim is released. Okay, so we're just gonna test it. We're gonna see, and if I start seeing people saying no in chat, then I know. If you see, just tell me in chat, you're gone, and then I'll block and I'll stop watching it, and we'll just move on to onto something else at that point. But I do want to test it, and it could be a little risky for us, risk a little, live a little. Am I right? So yeah, let's see. Switch to Twitch then. Yeah, well, of course, if this gets blocked from YouTube and we can't actually watch it, then I'll just finish watching it on Twitch, and then we'll watch something else. I've got plenty of stuff to watch anyways. But I do want to check it because I love the title. 6 myths about the Middle Ages that everyone believes. And yeah, I love the medieval period, and it's nice to switch. So without further ado, let's see what happens. Too early, Murray. Okay, so Ted ED, 21 million subscribers. This is so gonna get copy claimed. Well, let's try. I do have to say this though.
Don't mess with me, Ted. Don't mess with me.
Let's go. The first thing to understand about the Middle Ages is that they do not actually exist. That's a strong beginning. I want to see where he goes with that. But yeah, I will be interrupting relatively often. So sorry if that's annoying. It is what it is. Let's see.
Medieval Europe, where unbathed, sword-wielding knights ate rotten meat, thought the earth was flat, defended chastity belt-wearing maidens, and tortured their foes with grisly gadgets. Except, this is more fiction than fact. So where do all the myths about the Middle Ages come from?
And yeah, so she's right. Everything she said now, it's all nonsense. I can go deeply into the flat earth idea, like the idea that medieval people... Oh, that was loud. Sorry, I'll reduce it a little bit. But yeah, this idea that medieval people believed in flat earth, nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. I'll see how they justify it, but there is plenty. Like actual works, books, statuary where the kings and the bishops are holding the globe, literally a sphere to represent the earth. And besides, they could read the classics. They could read the Greeks, and the Greeks had already spoken about the earth being round and a sphere. So yeah, that's nonsense. But anyways, I reduced the volume a little bit. Let's go.
And what were they actually like? The Middle Ages refers to a 1,000-year time span, stretching from the fall of Rome in the 5th century to the Italian Renaissance in the 15th.
Yeah.
Though it's been applied to other parts of the world, the term traditionally refers specifically to Europe.
By the way, the idea of applying medieval to feudal Japan, ooh, if you want to see academics fight, man, I've read some when I was doing my research for the typical staple food in feudal Japan, and I was reading papers about it. Yeah, generally speaking, you don't really use medieval when talking about feudal Japan, but some people do. I tend not to do it, but I don't think it's a big deal. But some teachers, like some people, really hate it when you do that. So yeah.
One misconception is that medieval people were all ignorant and uneducated. For example, a 19th century biography of Christopher Columbus incorrectly purported that medieval Europeans thought the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Sure, many medieval scholars described the Earth as the center of the universe, but there wasn't much debate as to its shape. A popular 13th century text was literally called On the Sphere of the World, and literacy rates gradually increased during the Middle Ages alongside the establishment of monasteries, convents, and universities.
Yeah, so one thing I want to say about that is that it's absolutely true. Also, I think that the only people that really discussed this idea of what's the shape of the Earth would have been aristocrats, philosophers, nobles, and royalty. I don't think that the average farmer that just has to deal with planting wheat and working, his back is hurting and that kind of stuff, I don't think they really cared that much about what is this size of the sphere or whether it's flat. Or I don't really think it would have been the typical item of conversation of medieval people, even knights. Maybe in the clergy I can see it, because then again the clergy is learned just like the nobles are learned. So that's the characteristic that really unites those two, because as you know, the Middle Ages, usually the population is divided in three. You've got the clergy, you've got the warriors, and you've got the farmers. This is usually the three components of the medieval strata of society in general. And the ones that can read and write are the ones that can, usually some of them, the most learned, had access to Greek. They could read it, they could read Latin. And so they would be the ones that really speculate about these deep topics of the sphere of the Earth and the calculations of the ancients. And as I say, representation in art does point to the Earth being a sphere. But of course there was a high degree of a lot of people couldn't read anyways, so it kind of depends on the percentages vary from place to place, but sure. Yeah. Cool.
Ancient knowledge was also not lost. Greek and Roman texts continued to be studied. The idea that medieval people ate rotten meat and used spices to cover the taste was popularized in the 1930s by a British book.
Nonsense.
It misinterpreted one medieval recipe and used the existence of laws barring the sale of putrid meat as evidence it was regularly consumed. In fact, medieval Europeans avoided rancid foods and had methods for safely preserving meats, like curing them with salt.
Absolutely. This is something the Romans did as well. There is a mention in the sources about a Roman legion that didn't have salt anymore, and they were starving. Their food supplies were running low, so they actually went hunting, as they usually do, but they got some game, and they weren't used to eating game. And also there is the possibility that because they were running out because it was a siege, they were running out of food, then they did end up eating some meat that hadn't been preserved through salt, as they usually do. And so quite a few legionaries actually had a lot of stomach problems. Some died because of it. Food poisoning, it's not like medieval people are idiots. Of course they know that if you eat something rotten, I mean, anyone knows that. You don't need to be a biologist when you look at a piece of rotten meat and think that's disgusting. Literally, I think people in the Stone Age could figure that one out. So it's ridiculous that we have these myths. So far, I love the animations, by the way. Kind of reminds me old school comics in the 80s. As I say, it's ridiculous that we have this idea, the medieval people are so stupid. They would just put spices. Spices are expensive. If you can buy the spices, you don't think you could buy the meat? It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's funny.
Spices were popular, but they were oftentimes pricier than meat itself.
Man, yeah.
So if someone could afford them, they could also buy unspoiled food.
Cool.
Meanwhile, the 19th century French historian Jules Michelet referred to the Middle Ages as 1,000 years without a bath. But even
you see, that's why. And people in period would have said, well, he's a historian, so who are you to disagree with him, which is what people say whenever I disagree with a historian. It doesn't matter someone is a historian. They can still say something idiotic like this guy did. And 1,000 years without bathing. Why? Why? And they're gonna talk about the bathhouses. I can see the drawing. And by the way, everything looks like an animated Red Bull, just like you were saying here in chat. Absolutely, it's like an animated Red Bull. I love it. It gives you wings. Anyways, what I was saying is, yeah, no. Why? Even if you don't have a bathhouse, which we know they had plenty of, you have freaking rivers. Rivers. You know, rivers are everywhere. So, and the sea, you can bathe. I'm not saying they bathed every day, of course, but I'm saying you could totally do that. This idea, oh, no one bathed, it's counterintuitive to just humans. Yeah, you will have, you surely would have had the person who just would never bathe, but we have them today as well, and they have running water in their house. But in general, you know, you're not gonna not bathe for 3 years. Like, who's gonna do that? Who the heck is gonna do that? Unless you're someone who maybe has got some social issues, or you're so lazy, maybe you're depressed. I can see a situation like that. But the idea that all medieval people looked disgustingly dirty is ridiculous. Not to mention, European includes the Nordics, Nordic people, and Nordic people bathed like maniacs. So there is that. Yeah, maybe Reddit mods, the medieval equivalent of a Reddit mod, sure.
Small towns boasted well-used public bathhouses. People lathered up with soaps made of things like animal fat, ash, and scented herbs.
Yeah.
And they used mouthwash, teeth scrubbing cloths with pastes and powders, and spices and herbs for fresh-smelling breath. So how about medieval torture devices?
Ooh, this is gonna get me demonetized right off the bat. Here it is. I'll have to cut things up afterwards, after the stream is up. But yeah, a lot of they did use, unfortunately, these devices for this bad thing that I can't say. With that being said, it's definitely exaggerated, and some of the stuff may have even been post-medieval. So there is that. But they still did do it, though. Yeah. I can edit in YouTube Studio, absolutely, yeah. Even after a video is up, I can still edit and cut things out, which is usually what I do when there are problems like this. So, not a problem.
In the 1890s, a collection of allegedly terrible relics of a semi-barbarous age went on tour.
Yeah.
Among them, the Iron Maiden, which fascinated viewers with its
Typical.
spiked doors, but it was fabricated,
Fake, yeah.
possibly just decades before. And there's no indication Iron Maidens actually existed in the Middle Ages.
You know what existed? The Iron Maiden that make those amazing songs, and I've got a t-shirt for it. That one is real. That one is real. Yeah.
The Pair of Anguish, meanwhile, did exist, but probably later on, and it couldn't have been used for torture. It may have just been a shoe stretcher.
Oh.
Indeed, many ostensibly medieval torture devices are far...
Well, this is not medieval, but yeah, this is the Golden Bull. It's a story where you put someone in here and their screams, you can hear their screams distorted through the trumpet, but we don't know if this was more of a story and it's from the classical period. I'm not saying she's saying that. She's probably... Let's see what she's saying.
Stretcher. Indeed, many ostensibly medieval torture devices are far more recent inventions. Medieval legal proceedings were overall less gruesome than these gadgets suggest. They included fines, imprisonment, public humiliation, and certain forms of corporal punishment.
I love the nose. I don't know why, it reminds me of Lemmings a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah. Copper alloy bull, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the brazen bull. Or as Somber says, the copper alloy bull. Ooh, that's funny. This is the worst torture, guys. This is the worst one.
Torture and executions did happen, but especially violent punishments, like drawing and quartering, were generally reserved for crimes like high treason.
Yeah.
Surely chastity belts were real, though, right? Probably not. They were first mentioned by a 15th century German engineer, likely in jest, alongside fart jokes and a device for invisibility.
Oh, no.
From there, they became popular subjects of satire that were later mistaken for medieval reality.
It is funny, though. I'll give him that. It is funny.
Ideas about the Middle Ages have varied depending on the interests of those in later times. The term, along with the pejorative Dark Ages, was popularized during the 15th and 16th centuries by scholars biased toward the classical and modern periods that came before and after.
You know, I'll have to give it to them, though. Even though we try not to use the Dark Ages anymore, because, again, they weren't dark in any sense of the way by comparison. It's, in fact, there is a lot of progress. There is a lot of innovation. Yeah, but I have to say the Dark Ages sounds awesome. Like when it comes to PR, the Dark Ages. I mean, I gotta do it.
Welcome to the Dark Ages.
Am I right? Dark Ages does sound cool. So personally, in fantasy, I think it should still be used. Anyways, it is cool to think that from the perspective of someone in the Middle Ages, of course, he wasn't from the medieval period. He was from the present, from his perspective. But we call it medieval because it's in between the classical and the modern. But it is also possible that in 2000 years from now, we will be called medieval if they rearrange what's in the middle of what. I mean, that could be perfectly viable. I mean, imagine if, I don't know, they have other parameters. Then at that point, maybe if there is a way to resurrect us in the future, and they tell us, "Oh, look, you're a medieval man," and I'd be like, "What?" I mean, you never know. It is all a matter of perspective. Medieval just means in the middle, and so that's what's in the middle of. Yeah, good presentation so far.
And as Enlightenment thinkers celebrated their dedication to reason, they depicted medieval people as superstitious and irrational. In the 19th century, some romantic European nationalist thinkers, romanticized the Middle Ages. They described isolated white Christian societies, emphasizing narratives of chivalry and wonder. But
nationalist talking about the Middle Ages in Europe as white, and that's, I mean, yeah, the majority of Europeans. I mean, unless we are talking, I knew it. I knew that something like this had to be added there. I'd like to say it's not like it's wrong. If of course there would be some level. If you look at like port cities, like Alexandria, maybe even Genoa, up to a certain extent, like port cities can have a higher percentage of. They will still be majority European, but there could be a higher percentage of people from other ethnic groups with different phenotypic traits because you have trading. But if you go into the interland of the majority of the Middle Ages, medieval places, whether it be in France or even in England, or you go in Italy, Germany, Czech Republic, most would have been white. So I don't know why they have to now say, oh, the ethno-nationalists described it as white, but they were. It's Europe. I mean, does it make you ethno-nationalist to describe Japan as Asian? What am I going to say? No, it's not Asian. That's wrong, because Europeans, actually the Portuguese and the Dutch went in there and you had European monks. It's still Asian. So likewise, is it an African ethno-nationalist, someone who says that the majority of African countries in the Middle Ages were African, were black? I mean, no, it's not. Of course, the North, it's a bit different, but still majority-wise, if you look at the continent, so I don't know why they have to go in there and go, you're using the word white. Yes, and it's fine. We're talking about Europe, for crying out loud. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I wasn't showing. Apologies for that. I'll correct it. But yeah, that was a little bit of a strange thing to say. Thank you, Jasper Owens, for the Metatron membership. Very much appreciated. Dark Souls, get good. Oh, yeah. I hope I can get good. Yeah. So it's just one of those, chivalry is white, I guess. I don't know about Shal, but it's white is not a bad word. Can we underline that white is not a bad word? Yeah, some people use Caucasians, but it's actually, apparently it's not even appropriate. It's not necessarily correct. I don't think there is anything wrong with saying white. White, because if there is something wrong with saying white, then there is something wrong with saying black. But I don't think there is anything wrong with saying black. And likewise, I don't think there is anything wrong with saying white. And sometimes people say, well, yeah, but then again, a French, an English, a German, an Italian, a Nordic, they are all different. So if you call them all white and yet they look different, wouldn't that be inappropriate? And so we should get rid of the word white. Fine, but if you want to apply that logic, then it makes even less sense to call everyone in Africa black, because differently from what people usually believe, there is more phenotypic variance in Africa than there is in Europe. And I know that this may seem strange, because you think, well, yeah, but a guy with blue eyes and a guy with black eyes in Europe and someone with red hair, you don't usually have that. But you do. And the reality is, when you look at the entire spectrum of phenotypic traits that have to do with the way someone looks, Africa is the one continent with the highest diversity. Therefore, you still call all of them black. You cannot complain about white and the diverse looks of the different Europeans in Europe. It's just a matter of logics. Just a matter of logics. Yeah. It's I think they're both fine. Black, white, great. Who cares? Yeah.
Knights played minimal roles in medieval warfare, and the Middle Ages saw large-scale interactions.
Yeah.
Ideas flowed into Europe along Byzantine, Muslim, and Mongol trade routes, and merchants, intellectuals, and diplomats of diverse origins visited medieval European cities.
Great.
The biggest myth may be that the millennium of the Middle Ages amounts to one distinct, cohesive period of European history at all.
Oh gosh, so the end is the political message. So what she said is true. Yeah, people visited from the Muslim world. That's when they weren't fighting against the European, because I mean the Crusades and whatnot. But it wasn't always like that. Great, yeah. So yeah, people from the Islamic world visited, and people from other areas like Africa visited. Still European. So when if I visit tomorrow, if I visit Congo, is it any less African because I visited it? It's ridiculous. I cannot stand this kind of mental gymnastics that they have to go through just to say Europe is not European. It's not just European. You can't claim it. Not Europe. I'm so tired of this, guys. I am so tired of this. Like, it's insane. Hello, David Lopez. Exactly, Titan Bro, exactly. You would get pushed back, exactly. If you said that Japan was an Asian just because the Portuguese went there, exactly. But apparently that's the logics that you have to, this is what you have to say if you want to keep your job in academia. And you want to keep your little budget, because that's the message. The message is, as always, it wasn't too much on this. It was little at the end, a little bit like that. Oh, no, but it's always the same message. And I hate all forms of racism, and so this annoys me, but what can I say? Yeah.
Originally defined less by what they were than what they weren't, the Middle Ages became a ground for dueling ideas, fueling more fantasy than fact.
And that's true at the end, yeah. So yeah, if you hadn't hidden your propaganda nonsense and your anti-white and anti-European sentiment at the end, Professor, if you hadn't snuggled that one in, I would have said nice video. And I do want to appreciate, though, the editors, because they did a very nice job. It's just the guys, when I see, just like when I see actual racism, like, and I say actual meaning towards anyone. So if I see people starting, like maybe we are reviewing, like I make a video on Africa, as I have done many times, and then you have to have people telling me they only had mud huts, and I'm like, that's objectively false. So I'm annoyed by the fact that you say that, and then I respond and I give them all the different sites and the castles and the towers. Do I still think that European architecture is better looking? Yes, I do. Don't care if that's considered racist, because it's not. But it's also false to say all Africans could do was to build mud huts. Not true. With that being said, just as much as that kind of sentiment, and I'm leading me like, that looks... and then they start saying things inferior. Okay, that's a racist. I hate it. Likewise, it pisses me off when they have to say white. Oh, white. They were not white. Europeans didn't belong to Europe. It's not Europe because you had people visiting. So it wasn't. It was diverse. And it annoys me the same way. The same way. Because it's an attack on a specific type of people because of what they look like and because they need to get one up against the actual racist ethno-nationalists. I don't care about the ethno-nationalists. You still don't have to take and dismantle the reality of fact that Europe was majority white for the majority of time. Full stop. I mean, it's as simple as that. It is virtual signaling. Exactly, Matt. And I know that this gets me the usual comment, unsubscribe. I can't believe you became a far right. Think whatever you want. I don't even care at that point. Just like I don't care about the guy who hates everything that isn't white, and then I respond with the facts, and he hates me and tells me I'm woke. Who cares? Get lost at that point. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just the reality. It's just that this idea in academia today, while the racist people that hate black people, that hate Asian people. They're not in academia. They're a bunch of idiots that they're around these circles that I don't even frequent. So usually I'm not exposed to those. The racists that hate white and hate Europeans are in academia and have positions of authority, which is why on this channel, even though I debunk both, you will notice that I have a little more debunking on that side because of the positions they have. Because they'll tell you a professor debunks and then she says something. And again, this one wasn't particularly bad, but the reason now I overreact is because I'm tired of seeing this over and over again. Anti-white sentiment, anti-European sentiment, Europe bad, colonialism, and all that stuff. Decolonize, you don't use these words because they're offensive and then the word is perfectly fine. Like, and I say that as someone, like, for instance, that you can't say foreigner, apparently, according to University of Waterloo in Canada. You shouldn't say foreigner, it's not right. You should say international person. Well, as a foreigner and legal immigrant to the United States of America, I object. If someone calls me an international person, I'll tell them, no thanks, I'm a foreigner. Thank you very much. Given, if someone uses foreigner as a pejorative, fine. But the word, it's neutral. It's like the knife you have in your kitchen. The knife is fine. Whether you use it to cut carrots or to slice the postman is what's going to make it whether a good or a bad implement. You would say this is basic logic. Welcome to 2025, my friends. Welcome to, thank you, Kapena, for the base and Kristen for the 100%. I'm just here to say it how it is, and people call me hateful for it, but I think the only people that call me hateful are the hateful people. So when they actually do the airport statement, you know what the airport statement is? When they write, I can't believe blah, 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 blah. Unsubscribe, all caps. That's the airport because they need to announce their departure, right? Good. That's cathartic to me. When I see that, they think that I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I used to have 983,651 subscribers, but now it's 650 and I've lost this very precious person. Who cares? Good. I'd rather have a little less, but lose the toxic people that are gonna be there. Can't stand them, guys. Anyways, I got a little carried away. Apologies for that. But we didn't get copy claimed, so it worked. Fantastic, guys. That's a good sign. Now, let's talk about something a little lighter. It is a good, it's a good analogy. Let's talk about something a little lighter, since now I kind of discussed about this. I want to show you an image, guys. We're going to have a little break meaning that I'm going to show you something that has nothing to do with the Middle Ages, no history, but it's funny. So we're going to have a look at that, and it's going to be great. Boom. Do you know what this is? Are you old enough? Or are you gonna pull a Gen, whatever it is, Gen Z? Not even Gen Z, I think. Yeah, are you gonna pull a Gen, whatever the heck it is, on me? Yeah, that's a Nintendo, not a Super Nintendo. That's a Nintendo NES. Yes, now, why am I showing you this? Well, I'm showing you this once because, I remember this when I was 10. It was when I was 10-year-old, that was my birthday present, but it's beyond the point. This, I own it. Okay, I own it. It's a console from biblical times, exactly, about Bronze Age, I want to say. And we're going to have a little bit of a nostalgia rush, but I'm going to show you something that's going to make you laugh because this is great. So this is the action set. We'll get back on that word, but this is the action set of the NES, which a lot of us bought, whether it be in Europe or in America. And as you see, it comes with Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt. I don't want to make it sound like a bad word. Entertainment system, fantastic controllers, and the Zapper light gun, which this is orange here. Mine still works. Absolutely works, my friend. I've got it connected to the CRT. Anyways, beyond the point, we are not really interested in the front. We are interested in the back. So this is the side. We've got a little bit of like, buy this because we are the best, and then the Nintendo seal of approve, and I cannot help but removing the picture of an actual seal, the animal, every time I read that. But this is what I really wanted to share with you, my friends. This. Because what you see here, apart from the pictures that show you the technical aspect, whatever, this is 80s at its best. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Let me show you why. Because, of course, I'm over-analytical about anything. So, let's have a look at this wonderful advertisement from the 80s here, shall we? What have we got? Lovely family, because this is for the whole family, right? The entire family can get onto the action. And we've got a family, and they're playing Super Mario with their NES. Well, first of all, explain to me how this is good for the entire family, considering that the mum is not even looking at the screen. I mean, literally, look at her. Let's try and create a point directing. I don't know what she's looking at. Maybe the dust on the TV. Maybe something in the back. Maybe the uncle is it. But she's not looking at the screen at all. And that's the first problem. Second problem. Can someone explain to me how they're playing Super Mario if the cartridge is not even in the freaking system? The cartridge is on the table. This is supposed to be inside, advertisers. Explain that to me. Next. The NES is not on. If you look, I told you I was going to get over analytical about this. The button to power hasn't been, you never noticed? Yeah, wait, I haven't finished. I'm not done. I've got a lot of the, yeah, I own the box, so I spent a lot of time here. So the button to the power button has not been clicked. You can see that. And we should see a little red spy that tells us that the NES is on. So the NES is off. Next. They're both playing simultaneously Super Mario Bros., which is not a video game that you can play simultaneously. The two-player mode on Super Mario Bros. Is you go first with Mario, you die, and then your brother plays with Luigi. Somehow they're playing at the same time. Now, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The older brother, who has a younger brother, and the older brother wants to play, and the younger brother is like, but I want to play too. So you just give him the freaking controller. If they're young enough, that usually works. They think they're playing, but they're not, and then you get to play. So that happens sometimes. Still, I would like to underline that this rocket scientist of a little brother here, if you notice, he's been pushing right the entire time, even though Mario is clearly moving to the left. So, yeah, this is an idiot. Regardless of that, here's the thing. Both controllers are clearly connected to the NES, am I right? Then what the heck is the zapper gun doing here? It's not even connected. Do you want to know? The dad, my friend, the dad, look at him. Look at the way he's looking at Mario specifically. I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm going to show it to that damn Italian muppet. I'm going to show him my Second Amendment. This is an American family, so the zapper gun here has been placed just to represent the Second Amendment. But don't worry, Dad. You don't have to worry about it, because your son is doing a fantastic job at murdering Super Mario. As you can see, he's pushing A, he's jumping, facing left, so he's literally offing Super Mario. That's disgusting. That is disgusting. And let me tell you this much. I know that on the box, we've got Control Deck, and every time I read it, I'm thinking of a Scottish accent, and it already makes me laugh. But in this case, considering his facial expression, look how smiley. Look at this. This is a sociopath. This needs some psychological help here, like professional help. Look at him while he's about to jump onto his end with Mario, and he's laughing about it. This is not a Control Deck. This is a Control Dick. Before YouTube censors me, I was putting on a Kiwi accent. So anyways, this is 80s commercials at their best. They didn't get one thing right. I don't even think the TV is on. I don't see. Where are the cables? I need to see the cable. Where are the cables? The NES, unless the cables are invisible and they're going through the TV, considering either this one can be opened in the front, as someone who understands technology of this time, either can be opened in the front and you would have to connect the composite, or it's in the back. Regardless, this NES doesn't even have the cables ready. So this is where we are. My Kiwi accent has my approval. Fantastic. Yeah, so yeah, this was our little break. Everything wrong with this. I love it that marketing people that did this have got a clue. Could you imagine actually looking at the game from this angle with an original CRT? Like, this guy is actually seeing the scan lines and the pixels one by one. The scan lines, should I say, technically. Pixels in theory. You know what I mean? He's literally from this side looking at this is great. I love it. I love 80s. Yeah, I love the 80s, man. I really miss them. Anyways, I'm gonna go get a drink before we move on. Please be nice to the TV. Don't be Muppets like this maniac here who's just murdering Super Mario. Myco National, by the way. Mario. Anyways, yeah, they don't have a clue. The action set. Yeah, seriously. Anyways, I'll be right back, guys. The meta chair. The meta chair is back. So guys, hear me out. Hear me out. You ready? Hear me out. I'm gonna have to put you on screen for this one, but guys, I'm gonna put you on screen. So, before we continue, I'm gonna say this. Jack's mum has 4 kids. North, South, East. What's the name of the 4th kid? Jack. Yeah, it's the West. No, it's Jack. Because it's Jack's mum. Anyways, yeah, so let's go. Man, Jack is great. Jack is great. Jack is my friend. All right, so I got a nice video to check out, and I'm gonna do that. Nice try. Yeah, I know. There'll be more. There will be more, but I am. I'm gonna put on Vega's mask at one point. Before we do that, so I found this video that I think it's interesting, and I wanted to check out and see what we've got. You know how sometimes when you think of languages, specifically like German, I think is one of those that gets this rep. You always think like, man, German is an aggressive sounding language. It sounds angry. Does it though? Well, I got a video from a creator that I respect. Ollie Richards. And he addresses this. Now, we're not going to watch the whole video, but I do want to watch it a little bit. Let's check it out. Then I'll put the mask. Then we'll move to the next. Let's go. So why some languages sound angry? Let's see. Let's see if that includes your language. Oh, sorry. I need the audio.
Ja, lass die Hunde hoch! Nimm an wegen Schritt!
Glaubst du, dass die Deutsche keinen Humor hat?
Right, because of course the villain speaks German. But now listen to this.
Hochdeutsch sagt man eine Erdbeere.
Wait, is that the same language? One sounds like world domination, the other could be reading a bedtime story. Congratulations, you've been tricked, because some languages do sound harsh to us, but the real question is, are they actually angry, or have we all been completely bamboozled into just hearing them that way? My name is
Interesting topic, interesting topic.
Ollie Richards, linguist, author of more than 20 best-selling language learning books, and creator of the story learning method, which is a unique way to learn languages faster through the power of story. And I'm going to show you why some languages sound angry even when they're not, why your brain hears them that way, and how that might be silently sabotaging your language learning. Because if you've ever avoided a language because it sounded too harsh to you, well, you've been tricked. And once you understand how that trick works, you can flip it and turn those angry languages into a real advantage. And there's some brain science behind this as well. I will also...
Man, I love how he covers these topics. I really like Ollie, by the way. I didn't know he published 20 books. Goodness gracious, Ollie. I'm having some cheese.
Which language was voted both the angriest and most beautiful in the world? That's one you're going to want to hear. Close your eyes and picture a movie villain. What language or accent are they speaking? Well, that sounds pretty intimidating, but I've got news for you. You see, Hollywood has been playing the same trick on all of us for decades. They didn't just give us bad guys, they gave them a sound. German colonels, Russian spies, Arabic hostage takers, all shorthand for this language is definitely the bad guy. And it's worked.
Whenever I think someone...
Believe it or not, in a lot, and yeah, I like German too a lot, but believe it or not, a lot of bad guys in American movies have an English accent. It's either that or it's the AI. Have you ever noticed that? Like, yeah. Or the Romans. The Romans always sound Cockney for some reasons. Yeah. Hold the line. Come on, lads. Sit down. It's like the Roman legionaries for some reasons. Yeah, that's I mean, they did have local governors, I suppose. So it's, why, governor? It does sound very imperial to me. I don't know if there is whatever. That happens, I suppose. That happens. Thank you, Indebted, for heading to bed and joining the stream. Have a good night, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Indebted. Let's go. This is Sparta.
Someone might try to beat me up or mug me, I fake a Russian accent. Yo, man, you know what neighborhood you're in? You think this bad neighborhood?
German always seems like it's growling, but this is lazy storytelling, really. And I've got to say, it's kind of messed with our perception because over time, our brains made a shortcut. Scary scene equals scary sounds equals scary language.
Oh, how do you learn to be that mean and nasty?
I'm an actor.
Ooh, do you remember this scene when he's... By the way, this scene in Inglourious Bastards, when he speaks Italian, right? And then the American guy goes like, Buongiorno, Arrivederci, you know, that kind of stuff. And then he speaks like super fluent. It's actually extremely difficult for me to understand a word. Like, I really have to focus because I think what the actor did, I don't know if he speaks Italian actually. And so it was just, he said it so fast just to make it like, it makes it for a better scene. I'll give him that. But as a native, I struggled to understand. It was too fast, there was no breathing, and any language has a natural breathing moment and pauses. So like you don't really speak continuously without ever stopping a second because it makes you sound like a robot. And then he had a foreign accent, so all of that together, it was really difficult to understand him. But yeah, he's great. He's great. And then in English movies, the bad guys have French accents. I mean, I guess.
I just do what he gives me.
Yeah.
Turns out our brains are easier to fool than we think, as you are going to see. All right, let's turn the mic around. What if your language sounded terrifying to someone else? Because lovely, familiar English, well, it's not exactly all sunshine and roses.
This is what your language sounds like to other people. Oh, hello, who visited the state of levers for skates then, you dozing crunky wickle botter.
That for me, you agree.
Oh yeah, that was good. There are several short videos like that like they say nothing. It's gibberish, but they make it sound like the language, and that's an excellent. That's how English sounded to me when I still didn't speak it as a teenager. That's exactly it sounded. It of course there was a typical, again, like London accent, so it's like an American wouldn't sound to me like that, but it would sound like nothing but with a specific sound to it. That's actually pretty good. He did a really good job with that. Yeah. Absolutely. See.
That Trajan.
No, crustacean is trap. I mean, why
This-
the
this-
Crunky wickle botter.
That for me, you agree that Trajan.
No, crustacean is trap. I mean, why the crest soldier for the Magdalene nation? It's further grat to my Chosic.
Chelsea for the Magalon.
Magalon my shit.
Romance.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounded more like an American sounds to someone who doesn't speak English. Exactly. Like I know, oh my gosh, this is giving me nostalgia because that's how it sounded to me. Crustacean is a trap. I need to listen to it again. Crustacean is a trap.
Hello, who visited the state of levers for skates then, you dozing crunky wickle botter.
That for me, you agree that Trajan.
No, crustacean is trap. I mean, why
No, crustacean is trap, I mean.
the crest soldier for the Magdalene nation? It's further grat to my Chosic.
Chelsea for the Magalon.
Magalon my
Maggle on my shit.
shit.
Romance language speakers like French and Italian
Let's go.
say English sounds choppy, no flow, no finesse, definitely not enough vowels. And I get it, English doesn't have those lovely smooth vowel-to-vowel connections that Romance
I
language.
know, English sounds great though. I love it. Like, it's true. To me, it does sound choppy. It's true. Because Italian, but I still love it. Like, people love the sound of English, by the way, in Italy. Like, people love it. But with that being said, it sounds cool to us. Like, as a young Sicilian growing up in Italy, to me, whenever I would hear someone speak English, it sounded like, man, you're so edgy, you're cool. Like in the movies, like it sounded cool. But our language naturally always has a connection. It's a flow. So Italian, because almost everything starts with either a consonant or a vowel. And if it starts with a consonant, it's usually followed by a vowel. And at the end, you put another vowel. That creates a connection. So just to give you an example, I'll just say the first thing that comes to my mind. Oggi vorrei leggere un libro perché è divertente leggere libri e anche trascorrere un po' di tempo guardando la televisione. So as you see, there is no chopping. There is no chopping. It's a continuous musical connection with ups and downs, and that's just how it is. It's how we speak normally. So it's a very different approach to communication, but I think they both sound really cool. I love the sound of English. That's why I started learning it. But yeah. Yeah.
Languages have.
Ma secondo me è sempre utile parlare con qualcuno del posto, perché così capiamo tu cosa fai, come vivi a Napoli.
Meanwhile, tonal language speakers like
That was a northern accent, by the way.
Mandarin, Chinese, or Thai, well, they say that English sounds totally flat. Zero melody, just blah, which kind of makes sense because in tonal languages, the pitch goes up or down to change the meaning.
妈妈骑马，马慢，妈妈骂马。
And my favorite, well, Spanish people think that we sound lazy because we mumble. Well, you know what I mean.
I mean, I don't know though. He's putting it in a way. He's great. I love his content, but he's putting it in a way that sounds like people who don't speak English and are not Anglophones always have something negative to say. But in reality, as someone who was brought up in a Romance language area, we don't. I've almost never heard anyone speak negatively about the way English sounds, whether it be American English or English. Very occasionally, you will, of course, there is always, but I'm talking about averages. Yeah, in my experience at least. But yeah, I think he's just being humble because, of course, he is a native English speaker, so it's just being humble. It's like presenting up, lifting Italian and Mandarin and other languages, while at the same time he's like trying to lower his own. I get that, I appreciate it. I don't think he's saying it for any negative reason. He's just being humble. But I just wanted to tell you that that's not really how we think in general.
Becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, I don't know becomes well. You know, right? We've been cutting corners since forever. No wonder other languages think English has issues.
You can keep like rolling over and you stop like when it does, like when you do hold it, and then it will be the 20.
So yeah, we're probably not the best judges here. It turns
What on earth did that guy say?
out that what sounds rough or sweet or weird to anyone has nothing to do with the language itself and everything to do with what your brain is used to. By the way, if you're into this stuff, accent, sounds, how we actually hear language.
Okay, so that's the sponsor segment. Get that money, my friend. Let's go. We need something here. What could we buy with the money? Maybe a fridge. You might need. I have a fridge, by the way. My office is right there. So we could put a fridge here. So please use some of story learning, please. Thank you.
You thought we're angry. All right, let's have some fun. It's time for our angry language parade, where I show you the sounds that make these languages seem harsh. But are they really harsh? Well, you decide.
Oh, wow.
Right, you knew that we were starting here. German is the poster child for angry language jokes.
Flugzeug, Überraschung, Schmetterling.
But just so you're aware, German also gave us some of the most beautiful operas and love poems that you would never want shouted at you. Tune your ear into this.
Sah ein Knab ein Röslein stehen. Röslein auf der Heiden.
You only ever hear...
Man, that sounded amazing. Was that High German? It sounded amazing.
German during Hollywood war scenes. What do you think your brain is going to do?
And I walked in, the woman was really nice to me. She was like, Guten Tag, kann ich Ihnen helfen? And I looked at her and I thought, confidence, Trevor, confidence. I said, Guten Tag! Ich will ein klein Brotchen haben, bitte schön!
You should try watching real German movies because that will balance the scales.
Of course.
So, Boris, ты уже был в новой кондитерской?
В новой кондитерской? Бывал.
Yeah, Russian has these distinctive kind of sounds, you know, deep.
Very Slavic, yeah.
Dark and intense. I like it. Even the calmest words can feel like a Cold War broadcast.
На протяжении своего существования русский язык, он полиглот. То есть он в себя другие языки.
Polyglot. Yeah, it does sound like... Yeah, I mean, those vowels, they would take some practice, I have to say. So different from my natural vowels. I would have 7. A, E, I, O, U. These are the 7 vowels of the heptavocalic system of Standard Italian. None of those sound anything like neither Russian or even English, really. Though in some are similar. We've got E, we just spell it differently, but it's pretty much the same sound. Yeah.
Also flows like a waltz. Tchaikovsky thought so, anyway.
Из какого города?
Москва.
Из Москвы. Я сам, я учился в Питере. Я думаю, что Питер лучше, чем Москва.
Почему?
Maybe try listening for the melody, not just the edges.
And what if I apply English intonation to the Russian phrase? Нет ничего лучше изучения русского языка.
Yeah, I vote for leaving Russian exactly as it is.
Sure.
This one has been called the angry duck language on the internet.
Really?
Rude? Yes, but also kind of explains it. See, Vietnamese has 6 tones.
Ba, 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 ba.
Tight syllables and dramatic pitch.
I mean, I can see, as a Mandarin speaker, I can see similarity, but it's clearly more complex. Definitely, Mandarin is easier than that.
Shifts. These tones can sound quite jarring and frantic to us as English speakers because we just don't have them in our language. But to Vietnamese people, well, it's just another day at the office.
Of course, of course.
여자 사람이 나보고 누구냐는데.
Oh, but you didn't see this.
Man, I've always been annoyed by some, not everyone, but there is this tendency with some Japanese women and Korean women that they have to act like a child when they are 40. Not the case there, but it's always annoyed the heck out of me. They have a term for it in Japanese. It's buriko. Buriko is when it's like it's a girl or a woman that is older but acts like a freaking child. It pisses me off. I hate it. Like whenever I was on the phone with customers in Japan, and I would pick up 200 calls a day, 150 calls a day was one of my jobs. I had many jobs, but I took that one for about 8 months because I wanted to practice Japanese. And sometimes I would run into those. And they go like, konnichiwa. And I'm like, oh, for fuck, let's just speak normally. Regardless, not all are like that, luckily. But when you do hit one of those, it always makes me cringe. You think she sounded cute? Yeah, it is cute, but it's just sometimes it's a bit, I don't know. It's maybe it's a personality thing. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's a personality thing. You hate it too, Philly? Yeah, again, maybe you find it cute. Great. For me, it's a little bit of a no. It's forced cuteness. Yeah, it's like she wants to be cute. And I'm like, I guess Japanese men are into that kind of thing in general. Again, with average. I'm not talking everyone. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying it's just, I don't know. I just want a woman to speak like a woman. But that's just me. It's just me. Yeah.
This one coming, Korean is so cool. Lend me your ear.
What Korean sounds like to non-Korean speakers. 용기시나 해내고 전소를 덜 해서 가래.
Yeah. True.
노팅엄 포레스트랑 했을 때 1분 만에 골 먹히더만 1분 만에 또 먹혔어.
I actually like the sound of Korean, particularly the ending. The rising terminals or the sound, how it goes. I actually like it a lot. It's yeah, I don't think I'll ever learn it. I've put enough hours for 2 Asian languages already, Japanese and Mandarin. I don't need to put another 1,000 hours into anything else like that. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
If you take a look at Korean on my new language difficulty chart, you can see it's a level 7 language, which means it has sounds that English can't even imagine. See, Korean uses something called tense consonants, which basically means the speaker tightens their throat like they're about to shout, even if they're just ordering noodles.
There are 5 kinds of the tense sounds. Ga, da, ba, sa, da.
In Korean, this isn't yelling, it's structure. Your brain just hasn't met tense consonants before.
Japanese.
島田萌歌です。知ってるんだよ。そう、茶屋街。
Japanese has a reputation
I love it. Finally, an Asian language I can understand. Love that.
for being soft and flowing, but don't be fooled. In the right context, it can sound like an anime boss fight.
Kono he called him. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, and also in a military context, not just the arguments, but in a military context or in the martial context, I think Japanese sounds really strong. Yeah, no, Japanese can sound a bit of everything, doesn't it? Totally, yeah.
See, with Japanese, context is everything. Here's something fascinating. Japanese uses a thing called pitch accent, where raising your voice slightly can actually change the meaning of a word. So,
rising your voice? I'm gonna get technical here, Ollie. Is a pitch a raising of your voice? No, not necessarily. It can happen, but usually you are raising the note. When you work with pitch, and you're learning the pitch for a word, such as, I don't know, to go, iku, to come, kuru. These are opposite pitches. Or like, I don't know, the pitch for God, kami, as opposed to the pitch for paper, kami. The difference is the note. It's literally the note. If I had a keyboard in front of me, I could show you which notes I'm pushing. And it doesn't matter exactly what you hit, but it matters whether one is higher or lower than the previous one. And that's how the pitch accent functions. There is sometimes a rise in volume, I'll give him that, when you have words such as hana, and then you add a particle, hanaga. Yeah, sometimes you do have a little increase in volume. I've actually looked at this with a machine. That's how crazy I went with this, to actually look at the representations on graph of the sounds. But in general, you're not really raising your voice. You're changing which note you're hitting, and whether you're going down or you're going up, or you're staying where you are. Like if you say Yokohama, Yokohama, and there is a mild lowering towards the end in that pattern. But yeah, I mean, pitch is complicated, so I understand we didn't want to spend a lot of time into pitch. Pitch is very complex, though.
Even a gentle sentence can sound intense if you're not used to it.
Scare.
Oh, I liked that. That sounded great.
Icelandic. What can I say? Those k and g sounds hit like ice cracking. But then
Love it.
someone starts singing a 1,000-year-old song and
Kemur álvaran minn til lokast og hindra hann að komast aftur til síns heima.
Man, that was amazing. Wow, that was great. Was it Old Norse? I was already imagining the boat and the axis. Ooh. Yeah, Odaka pattern, exactly. The Odaka, the Nakadaka pattern, the Hebang, yeah, all the different patterns for pitch. That was absolutely beautiful. Exactly, Melanie, I agree. That was great. Yeah. Nordic folk music. Gorgeous. You think it was Elvish? Well, I imagine Elvish in Lord of the Rings is somewhat inspired by Nordic languages, unless I'm wrong. I have no idea. That was great.
it is the language of the Vikings. You just got to listen for the flow rather than the individual sounds, and the entire feeling will change.
Oh yeah, that's the one that has the clicking sound. It sounds almost alien.
Koza is famous for its loud clicks. They can really get intense.
Fascinating, actually. When I found out about this was way before university and all the linguistic studies. It's because I met someone who spoke it natively when I was living in the UK. And so I remember that his name started with that sound. It's very unique, yeah. And so whenever we would ask him, what's your name? He would say it with the sound, and we were like, what? And so, we all tried to do it, but I guess we didn't do it right. Very fun.
Sometimes, and let's be honest, English has nothing like them. So when we first hear the language in real life, our brain goes, wait, is that even speech? Am I in trouble? But listen again. Okay, those...
Holy moly, I never heard it in an area with echo. Wow, that was loud. Whew.
Clicks still seem to own the room, but they're actually part of a very cool rhythm, like musical punctuation. And when you stop flinching at the sound of a language, you start catching words without trying too hard, and your brain goes, okay, I get it now. So why do I keep going on about your brain? Because we're going to see what science says about it. But first...
Fantastic. So as I say, I don't react to the whole thing because I want people to go and watch him and give him the like and leave a comment. But I have to say, I really wanted to see all the languages that he showed, and up to this point, as usual, Ollie delivers. Ollie. And he did a really good job. It was great. So if you're interested in the science part of it, then absolutely, keep watching. Watch it another time. Write it down because this was very good. We'll give him a like. That was great. Absolutely. Yeah, this video was great. As I say, I enjoy watching Ollie Richards. I don't watch him as much because lately I've been more interested in other types of content. But whenever I do remember that he exists, then I enjoy watching a video or two of his because it's very fun. I wish he had showed some Arabic as well. I wanted to hear that. But in general, yeah, very good. Very good. You will look him up. Yeah, absolutely, Murray. You should totally do because he's a very good creator. Very good creator. Right. So I'm going to switch the chat now. Give a little time to our members. Get a little time to our members to ask a question. Tell us how your day has been. Let's see who's going to manage to get the last regular chat video. And yeah, 1 second. I'm going to do the countdown as always. We're going to go into members only, guys. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Muppet. So the winner is Thunderwing, as always, and he'll probably be the first one once I unlock chat, because I will. I'll unlock chat again. We're just going to spend a little time with our members, but we'll unlock chat again. Buonanotte, soon. Do you speak Arabic? No, I don't. It'd be cool to learn some Arabic. I don't think I would want to put enough. I've put enough hours in too many languages already. So, but it would be nice to learn a little bit of Arabic. I wouldn't mind that. Absolutely. But yeah, cool. So yeah, everyone, members, welcome, welcome. Glory to Pompey, says Joe. Let's rise our arms as we always do. Glory to Pompey, my friends. Yep. And let me see, as I always say.
Welcome to the inner circle.
Okay, guys, so there is one more video that I found. Today is a lot of videos. Tomorrow will be a different stream. But I did find one more video that intrigued me. I haven't watched it yet. So let's see what you guys think about it and the members. At the same time, I will be checking your comments, of course. Glory to Pompey. Always. It's a short video, 7 minutes and 20 seconds. And I got attracted by it and I thought, I want to look into this because the title is The Lazy Method That Got Me Fluent Insanely Fast. He's got a lot of views in 2 months. And the thumbnail says I got fluent too fast. So it's a little clickbaity, but I don't judge a book from its cover because that's what usually my detractors do to me. I'm going to watch it because it's either one or two things. Either it's one of those videos where the guy is just going to try and sell you something and tell you, yeah, you can become fluent in 3 weeks with my powerful method. In 3 days, you'll be fluent. Just give me money. If it's that, then I'll call him out. But instead, if it's a situation where the method is legit, as someone who has put over 10 years into both the learning and teaching of languages, I'll say, you've seen this guy's video? Well, let's have a look. I haven't, so maybe he's good. Or maybe not. Without further ado, Muppets. Let's check him out.
What if...
All right, I love his setup, though. I love the dragon in the back. Very nice.
What if everything you've been taught about learning a language is completely backwards? Today, I can use Chinese to navigate complex business discussions. And
Chinese speaker. A fellow Chinese speaker. That's nice. Now I see why he's got the long in the background. That's really nice.
I did it using a method so counterintuitive that experts might even call it lazy. I used to be that person with color-coded notebooks, subscription applications, and weekend study intensives. I would block out 2 to 3 hours for rigorous daily study sessions, determined to master Mandarin through sheer discipline and willpower. But 6 months in, despite my dedication, I could barely string basic sentences together.
Okay, so up to this point, so far so good. First 34 seconds, no nonsense. It is true that unfortunately when you go the traditional method of learning a language, oftentimes you're not doing it right. Like you sit down, you read the book, you don't speak, you don't say a word, and yeah, that's not great. Or you just read something and try to memorize a list. It just doesn't work. It's not natural. It's not how we learn our first languages in the first place. So I agree with him. With that being said, he said after 6 months, I could barely string a sentence together. That's not uncommon, though, with a language like Mandarin. If you spend 6 months in the country with a little bit of a basis, then I think you'll get to at least lower conversational, mildly conversational, at least, if you have a good basis. But if you start from absolute zero, kind of depends. But I mean, 6 months, it's going to take some time. Quite a bit of that time will be spent just to learn the tones. But sure, cool. 非常好，很好玩。
Pronunciation felt unnatural. The I could barely string basic sentences together. The pronunciation felt unnatural. The vocabulary wouldn't stick. And worst of all, maybe, I started translating everything in my head before I actually started speaking. And this, of course, would create that awkward delay that would make conversations painful to have and probably painful to listen to. Now,
yeah, he's absolutely right with that. As I say, I'll tell it how it is. I never think, like now I'm having a live stream in English, my second language. It's not like I'm thinking in Italian and translating. You can't do that, particularly as someone who used to work in international translation and simultaneous interpretation. You have to think in the language, so very good.
Now, as chief operating officer of a growing e-commerce company, I am obsessed with efficiency. And so one day it hit me. What if my approach to learning languages was fundamentally inefficient? I mean, what if all of this structured studying was actually the problem and not the solution?
What books has he got? Let me see.
I mean, what?
Mandarin Chinese. Does he have Hanyu Jiaocheng? That's the one that I used. He's got a book for Italian. The one I used at the at my university. No, I don't see it.
What if all of this structured studying was actually the problem and not the solution? This question sent me down a neurolinguistic rabbit hole that I became obsessed with, and it ended up totally changing the way I approached studying languages.
Sure.
I'm about to share something with you that might sound ridiculous at first, but I promise you it's backed by cutting-edge brain linguistic science that has helped thousands of learners who might be stuck just like you finally have a breakthrough. I call it the neurological alignment method, although a lot of my friends just call it the lazy way of mastering languages. It's designed to work in harmony with your brain's natural processes.
Okay, that's a good start. You like Mandarin? Me too. Yeah. It's a nice sounding language. Absolutely. It's interesting because I heard like we say Mandarin. You can also say Chinese, but Mandarin is more descriptive since Cantonese is also Chinese, but they're not mutually intelligible. Regardless, what's interesting about that is that if I had to translate Mandarin in Mandarin, I would say 普通话, which means the common language. But then again, not all Mandarin is 普通话. So no, actually, that's not a good translation. Maybe the one they use is 汉语. Probably that's the best way to translate it. So the language of the Han, so the people, the ethnicity, 汉语 would be the best way to translate Mandarin. Because 普通话 is just the most standard version of Mandarin, which is based on Beijing Hua, so the Beijing accent and language, but not exactly the same. Beijing goes nuts with the Hua when they sound. Standard Mandarin does as well have that sound, but it's not like as overly used as Beijing Hua. Otherwise, I've seen some Chinese say 中文, but technically that's just a written language, but Chinese people, unless they're like in academia, they will use it to just mean, Chinese, the language.
Rather than just fighting against them. Now, before I explain the core techniques, you need to first understand why the traditional methods simply don't work. Our brains actually aren't designed to learn languages by memorizing grammar rules or studying vocabulary lists. Think
Absolutely right.
for a second about how you learned your native tongue. Did anyone...
Goatee asks, is Cantonese a form of Mandarin or technically a completely different language? No, it's not a form of Mandarin. They are both Chinese, but I personally don't like calling all of the languages spoken in that area Chinese, because it would be kind of the same as saying Italian and French and Spanish are all forms of European. It's kind of weird because the distance between, say, Beijing and Xianggang, so would be Hong Kong. That's how you say it in Mandarin, by the way. It means the port of perfumes, Xianggang, Hong Kong. And the distance, the geographic distance is massive. They have different cultures. They have different food. They sound different. They're not mutually intelligible. People in Hong Kong and the Canton area usually do study Mandarin at school, but it's a bit like an Italian studies English at school. It's still very distant, and I'm not a native, right, of English. So no, they're not, definitely not. Cantonese is its own language, just like Mandarin is its own language. I find Mandarin sounds more beautiful to me than Cantonese, but I like Cantonese, and Cantonese is objectively more difficult because it has more tones than Mandarin.
Drill you on conjugation tables as a toddler? Of course not. You absorbed language naturally through meaningful contexts that had some relevance to you and your life. Now, neuroscience reveals that languages are stored in your memory in the procedural part of the brain. And it turns out that this is the same neurological system that helps us with riding a bike or with typing on a keyboard. Now, traditional studying methods when it comes to learning a language targets what's called declarative memory.
This guy's based. So question. My uncle's wife is from Guangzhou. Do they speak Mandarin or Cantonese? Cantonese. Because in fact, when you say Canton, this is an interesting one. When you say Canton in English, it's a rough approximation of a specific region that has that name. And if I don't know how to say it in Cantonese, but in Mandarin, you have the region of Guangdong and then the city of Guangzhou. Unless they're the other way around, I don't know, but I think I said it correct. What's funny is that there was actually a misunderstanding between medieval Europeans and Chinese. And so when we say Canton, usually we mean the city, but the city is Guangzhou. And again, if I'm right, and Guangdong is more the region. So Canton is actually the region, even though we use it to mean the city, whatever. Regardless of the mistakes of the past, of Marco Polo and whatnot. What's interesting is that, so it's Canton. Basically, she's from the Canton region, so she speaks Cantonese. Yeah, so Mandarin is spoken from the north with its own specific varieties that, as I say, one of the characteristic sound is the arhua. So a lot of words will have this sound at the end, a bit like American English, if you will. This sound goes away already when you reach like Shanghai. They don't use that sound. And then if you go into the south, that sound is mostly gone. You have it for sounds like number 2, I guess, but in general, you won't find it. And you go all the way down to Sichuan, I think one of the southernmost areas, but then all of the areas that you have in, like, as I say, in the Canton region, Hong Kong, so the island, no, that's all Cantonese. But Mandarin is widely spoken. It has over 1 billion speakers. It's so it is the one language you want to learn if you want to learn an Asian language and you don't have a personal cultural preference. So if you like Japanese because you like anime, then learn Japanese. But this is the one that really, Mandarin allows you to communicate with so many different cities like Xi'an, as I say, Shanghai, Beijing, and all those areas. It's just that the north has that sound. And also another characteristic is that when you see transliterated the SH in the northern variety of Mandarin, it sounds like a sh. In the southern variety of Mandarin, it's simplified into a s. So like the verb sh, 我是, I am, becomes 我是 if you go in the south. But it's not like too strange, but then it also means that sounds like Shanghai. So above the sea, that's what it means. Shang is above and Hai is the sea, the city of Shanghai. In a southern accent becomes Sang instead of Shang. So it can be difficult to recognize sometimes. I personally like the standard Mandarin, is my favorite. And my professors at university, they were all from Beijing. So I heard a lot of Arhua, like a lot. And yeah, that's how it is.
Now, it's really great for memorizing facts or figures or something like that, but it's absolutely terrible when it comes to helping you develop an automatic skill.
Absolutely.
So, what's the alternative? Something so enjoyable, you're going to question whether or not it's actually effective. Something you're probably already doing every single day without truly realizing its potential. Television. Yes. Really. But not just any passive watching whatever the heck happens to be on the television. This is a strategic visual approach to taking regular entertainment and transforming it into the most powerful of language acquisition tools. Now, I'm just gonna say it, this isn't about zoning out to foreign films with your native tongue subtitles on the TV. It's about creating a deliberate experience that
So yeah, no, this is a legit, it is one of the techniques that I used. So absolutely, it's legitimate. Is it the most powerful learning tool? No, I disagree. The most powerful learning tool is actually speaking with natives. But of course, a lot of people don't have that luxury. And so it is very good to watch a movie in I watched so many movies in English, and I picked up a lot of pronunciation, a lot of vocabulary that way. I wouldn't consider it the ultimate secret study that you just do this, you just watch TV, but use it as a methodically, and then you become fluent. If that's his position, I slightly disagree. But it is very effective. I'll give him that. So absolutely.
Mimics how your brain naturally acquires a language. So in that sense, I guess you could call it strategic entertainment immersion. The magic
or just watching TV
happens because visual storytelling provides rich contextual cues that help your brain naturally map meaning to new sounds and patterns. Your neurological language centers activate automatically when meaning is clear, even without understanding every single word. I transformed my Mandarin speaking and listening ability just by watching a couple of hours of TV every single day, which
no problem, Lady Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, no. As I say, it's a legit method. So at least I'm happy that this is not like this guy seems legit. He knows what he's talking about. Is he overselling it a little bit? Yes, but it is a very objectively efficient way to study when you watch movies, pause, take your time, review the pronunciation, look at the situation in context. Definitely much better than taking a list of words, which I've never done in my life. Take a list of words and just repeat book, pen, pig, controller, microphone, Muppet. I've never done that in my life. Yeah, so sure, it's better because you see the context, the people are fighting and arguing, one points to the car, and then they say the word for car, ch in Chinese, for instance. 这是我的车, this is my car. Imagine that they say that, and then you see the contextual cues that help you understand it, and also maybe if it's it's a good movie that you like, or even a video game, to be honest. I do this with Skyrim. I'll show you what I'm talking about, but when I play Skyrim, sometimes I swap, and I just describe everything as I play, because that way I can retain the vocabulary, because I'm playing a game I like. So no, I agree with him. It's a good video so far. It's a good video.
By the way, I already did. Before, it just wasn't in Mandarin. And again, this wasn't a replacement for studying. This was studying. This was my primary study method, and the results were astonishing. The content selection is critical and has to follow the comprehension 80-20 rule. Start with content that you understand about 80% of, either through the visuals on the screen, the context that's provided to you, or something to do with the motions maybe that the person is using on screen. This creates the perfect zone where your brain is able to infer meaning without getting frustrated about.
Yeah, what I used to do in Japan is that I would go to the library and find CDs and books that were used by children, and progressively go through the stages that a native goes through. And when it's children's media, it's very simple. They're using vocabulary that is easy to understand. So if you're a beginner or even a lower intermediate, it's a good way to build up that vocabulary that we naturally learn as kids, and then progressively get harder and harder until you end up watching a thriller and you understand terminology that is not only obviously apt for everyday adult life, but you can even end up learning some technical terms if you're passionate about it. So yeah, no, I agree. Good point.
Not understanding the peripheral things. For example, begin especially with content designed for either beginners or for children.
There you go.
Mini stories with repetitive structures, simplified news programs for language learners, or children's shows with very visual storytelling.
Sure, yeah.
Then after that, you can gradually progress to the following: teen dramas with straightforward plots, documentary series on already familiar topics, or competition shows where actions are clearly tied to dialogue. For example, for me with Mandarin, I started with very basic content.
Oh, I know her. Actually, she's one of the channels that I watched a lot when I was like really focusing on my Mandarin. So yeah, she's good. Learn Chinese easily and effortlessly. Yeah, this is always, you need effort, for crying out loud. I like her, but the title, yeah, Shuo Chinese, she's fantastic though. So I'm gonna give her a pass for the title. I understand it. Hate the game, not the player. But do keep in mind, all language learning requires effort and time. There is no magic pill, no method that will remove these two constituents from the equation. With that being said, it is also true that if you are highly tactical, strategic, and you optimize your study time with technique and proper, if you do it right, then yeah, it will be a lot easier and you will actually get results a lot faster. So I agree with that, but she's great.
Aimed at beginners, and eventually I was able to graduate to more complex content that actually aligned with my personal interests.
Good.
Now, there are two ways to implement this technique: active immersion and passive immersion. Active viewing, as you can probably guess, means giving your complete undivided attention to the content. I'm talking about no phone scrolling, no multitasking, no distractions from other devices or notifications, full mental engagement on what you're studying. Now, passive immersion is also very valuable, but
你忘了你的手机. This is a 手机 in Chinese. No 手机 allowed.
solves a different neurological purpose. This is where you allow content to play in the background while you're working out or cooking or commuting or doing any other activity. This allows your brain to continue to process the patterns of the language, although subconsciously. And just a quick note, sorry, it doesn't work while you're sleeping. Anyway,
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, no, the guy's based. I like the guy, he's good. The information is good. It's a little oversold, but then again, he said he's some kind of CEO of a business, so I understand. I can respect that as long as the information is correct. I don't have a problem with the delivery method. You do you. And I think it's very good. Absolutely. Yes. The idea, this nonsense that you can sleep and play the language, you know what's that going to do? It's not going to let you learn the language magically. Wake up and you start speaking like, 你好,明天你要去北京参观. Like, not going to happen. What's going to happen is that you're not going to have a good night of sleep. That's what's going to happen. So, yeah. Not a good idea.
The real breakthrough came for me when I combined these two approaches. I would actively watch new content and then replay it several times while doing other things.
Absolutely.
This repeated exposure cemented the patterns of the language in my brain without needing to add extra time to studying. Now, here's where my approach becomes truly controversial. I recommend minimal speaking, that means minimal output practice, until you've accumulated about 300 or so hours of quality input time.
I completely disagree. Fluency formula. That's the only thing I disagree with. So still, fantastic. Happy to talk about it, by the way. But in my personal experience, when I picked up English, when I picked up Japanese, reached fluency with it. When I picked up Mandarin, got conversational, not fluent though, yet. Whatever language it was, French, Spanish, in my experience, I always speak. Now, it's also possible that I'm misunderstanding him. So I don't want to strawman the man. I'm going to try and stillman him instead. So let's say that instead, when he says minimal to no speaking until you reach, maybe he means, what could he mean? Perhaps he's not actually talking about the idea of speak, because you have to. If you just listen, if you listen, you have to repeat, because you have to build a muscle memory. And also by saying something, even if you tell someone about it, like imagine that today you're learning the Italian word mangiare, to eat, okay? A good way to remember that, or even like the word pane for bread, is to go and tell someone. Just go to someone and tell them, did you know that in Italian bread is pane, and or latte is milk? Just milk, not the coffee with milk. Latte is just milk. Whatever it is, I don't know. Telefono, well, we say smartphone now. Whatever it is, Muppet. Muppet in Italian is Muppet. Maschera. Okay, this is a maschera. So you can go and tell someone, and that's actually a good way to remember it, believe it or not. But in general, I disagree with the idea of you have to start speaking from the very beginning. He's going to try and debunk that now, I imagine, because but I agree with that. It's just that it has nuances. So I don't want to say that I necessarily disagree, because as an answer, if he tells me, well, yeah, but before you speak, you need to make sure that what you're saying is correct. Otherwise, you might end up learning something in a way that is wrong, and then you have to deconstruct it. Then I can agree. So it's kind of a case by case. But I would say whenever you learn a word for the first time, you've got to say it out loud. So this might be the only point of disagreement if I have understood his argument correctly. Maybe he means like don't try actual conversations with natives, like running before you can walk. Maybe, yeah, sure. I mean, of course, if you are too much of a beginner, you'll fail. But then again, you could also tell a native and tell them, hey, can I try and ask you, what's your name? 你叫什么名字? You could ask that, and then can you ask me, and then see if you understand me. It's still advantageous to try, so that if there needs to be a correction with your tones or your syllables, and then maybe they can ask you 你叫什么名字, and you can say 我叫 and say your name, or 我的名字是 sorry, I effed up the tone there. 我的名字是 whatever it is, or 我是意大利人 我住在北京 whatever you want to say. It's always good to speak. So that's the only point of disagreement I have with this gentleman. Otherwise, he's based.
Now, I know this flies in the face of conventional wisdom that says you need to start speaking from day one. Your brain needs to build strong recognition patterns before production becomes natural. And when you finally actually start speaking, you'll find that the words flow from your mouth a lot better than you expected, because these patterns have been cemented in your neurological pathways. And yes, while outputting the first time, it might feel a little slow and clunky, very rapidly, you're going to realize that there's no awkward translation, no struggling to recall grammar rules, just fluid communication.
Yeah, but the thing is, and as I say, yeah, I do actually disagree then with this point, because fluency is built not through absorption only. Fluency is built by muscle memory, and muscle memory is built by practice. So just like you can study and listen to the theory of going to the gym as much as you want, but the only way you actually learn to pick up the weight and lift it. And until you do that, you can know all the theory you want. You will be clunky. Your form will not be good. You can learn the form, but you need to actually do it and feel it. So again, maybe it also depends on the person. If it worked for him and his Mandarin is sensational, then fantastic. It worked for him. But for me, I started speaking immediately with any language that I ever picked up while doing what he's saying. So I am still saying that his method is absolutely legit, correct, absolutely. I've done all of that with every language I've ever tackled, whether it be Japanese. You know how many anime I watched in Japanese, like, and I still remember words like shinzo mahi, shinzo hossa, words that I don't even need to know, like, which means heart attack, and it's one, and the other one could be like a stroke. These I learned from an anime, Death Note. Okay, they stuck into my memory, great. But the idea of, I've always, like, even if I was watching an anime, then I would call a Japanese friend and I would tell them about it. I will tell them that, そうですね。たった今、面白いアニメを見ました。本当にすごかったんですよ。知ってますかこのアニメは? And then I would tell them about it. And the reason why it's effortless, I don't need to stop, is because I used it. Just all the time. To me, you have to speak every day if you want to learn a language. But that's just me.
After a few hundred hours of inputting Mandarin into my brain, I was shocked to find that my conversations were actually surprisingly smooth. The right phrases would kind of emerge naturally, and I actually had pretty decent pronunciation and tone for a non-native speaker. But please don't get me wrong, I was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I was significantly more comfortable and capable than I expected to be. When I look back at my language acquisition journey, I think the biggest breakthrough came when I stopped trying to force a language into my brain and instead allowing it to just enter naturally, and honestly, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Literally. So there you have it. By working with your neurological wiring, you find out that things become remarkably easy and enjoyable instead of having to struggle and struggle and struggle. Now, you're gonna be surprised to hear that what I love most about this method isn't just that it works, it's that it transforms language learning from this annoying homework that's nagging you to do it to something that you really enjoy and look forward to.
Which is how it's supposed to be. 100%. That's how it has to be. Datebayo, someone is speaking like Naruto there in chat. Yeah. No, he's correct. Like, language learning has to be fun. If it's not fun, it's not going to work. I would say that applies to any subject. You're not going to learn history. I mean, think about it. You all had that one teacher that made it so boring and you forgot everything immediately after the test. But then again, instead, maybe you relearned something like that, and because you learned it through a medium that you really liked, whether it be a YouTube channel, whether it be a video game, and now you know for a fact that you will never forget that 1066 is the Battle of Hastings with the Duchy of Normandy against the Anglo-Saxons. You'll never forget it. Why? Because you learned it in a fun way. So yeah, no, fun, 100% with him. 100% with him.
At maybe the end of your day. In this video, I have called strategic entertainment immersion isn't cutting corners. It's actually the most direct path to fluency in your target language. And hey, if you want a structured approach where you don't have to do any guesswork whatsoever and it's all taken out for you, then check the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, awesome. Anyways, I liked him. I'm happy that he's not, even if I may disagree with a few technical aspects of his language learning method, I will say that I'm happy that it's not one of those cases where you've got people that try to sell you something and it's giving you false expectations that don't actually make sense. So yeah, no, I appreciated that. That was pretty cool. Anyways, let me reopen. Dochi dayo, someone is writing, yeah. Very anime sounding. All right, yeah, my braid is gone, by the way. The braid is completely gone. Sorry, guys, it's gone. Anyways, whatever. Doesn't matter. You're not here to watch me fix my hair. Let me just reopen chat for everyone. I'm going to do that. 1 second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mop hair. Who have we got? And the winner is, as always, Thunderwing, gold medal. Matt W, silver medal. Melanie. Melanie got into the podium. Look at that. Thank you so much. Bronze. All right, guys. Very good. Very good. So I hope you had a good time today with the stream. I think I did. I mean, I know we did a lot of reactions for this, but it's just so that I built up a little bit of archive so I can... Thanks to you, by the way, now I can go finish those videos. I've got one on the Vikings. I've got one on ancient Roman polychromy, although that one is kind of taken from a live stream partially, and then I added more stuff afterwards. And then I've got like some other videos coming up soon that have been like one about the biblical flood. It's doing a study of looking at some other ideas and stories from other areas still in around there, like the Fertile Crescent and Akkadian works and literary texts, and then Egyptian literary texts, and putting them together. So that's going to be good. That's going to be good. And these take some time, but thanks to you, we got some time back. Regarding learning languages, I'm trying to teach English to my daughter and Italian to my wife, but while I just speak English to my daughter with minimal teaching like letters. Yeah, that's fun. Sure, why not? So I imagine you're fluent in both English and Italian. Thank you for the distraction from the currently unfolding world war. Have a good night. Yeah, no, I hope I haven't followed the current situation in the Middle East. I think that's what you're talking about, so I don't know anything about it. I honestly always hope that innocent people are fine. Doesn't matter the flag, the colors, I don't care. I just hope that the innocent are fine. That's my approach to that. But I'm not the guy to ask about it because I haven't got a clue. In fact, I might watch something afterwards after the stream is over. Although first, I'm going to go have some dinner because I'm starving. Thank you guys for joining the stream. I really appreciate that. And both on Twitch and on YouTube. Melanie got to go. Awesome stream. Have a good night. You too, Melanie. And yeah, amen. If only. I know, my friend. Yeah, that's how I approach it, regardless of, because I might not know the interdynamics of the political situation. I don't have a clue, but I still feel for any innocent that has to deal with suffering, regardless of the sides. Thank you, guys. Have a good night, and I'm gonna go shower and shampoo and have a nice warm meal. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate. Have a good one. Mangia, sì, mangio. Bye. Have a good one. Ciao, ciao.